In an illegal Chimera lab, scientists discover that our MC, a powerful S-rank Chimera known as number 17, is losing functionality. Deciding it's no longer useful, they discard it by sending it to the demon realm with a group of hunters, assigning it to protect them, but forbidding its return. Inside the realm, countless monsters attack, but 17 effortlessly destroys them, ensuring the hunter's survival. When the mission ends and the gate begins to close, the hunters abandon him as planned. With no orders left and his body failing, 17's human memories resurface. He was an orphan kidnapped and turned into a Chimera after being injected with over 500 monster cells. As his life fades, his core releases a massive explosion. And in a shocking twist, number 17 is reborn. Not as a monster, but as his original human self once again. 17 is left in awe as he tries to process what just happened to him. He realizes that the monster cells in him are still active, meaning he is not a regular human. He figures out that the lab is already done with him, which is why they have not come to retrieve him. In addition to the changes on his body, the experiment number on his wrist is gone. 17 believes that he was able to return to life thanks to the ability of the ferret-type monsters that reside in his body. Apparently, unless the core is destroyed, the creature can survive up to 3 times. However, there is a saying that the phoenix doesn't fuse with human cells, which basically concludes that his own case is a special one. 17 figures out that everything the lab did to keep him under their leash has absolutely disappeared. And since his life as number 17 is over, he thinks of living as a regular human. In his quest to start a new life, he thinks of a name for himself and he concludes on Shoyon Dun. Shiraion initially thinks of getting revenge, but he trashes the idea since he doesn't even know who he is supposed to target. Nonetheless, he is confident that he will eventually run into his targets one day. When Shiraion realizes that his body is bare, he figures out that getting clothes will be the first step in becoming human. He starts walking around the demon realm and soon finds a river, which he thinks would be helpful. He looks around and suddenly finds a dead bird monster that died from poisoning. Since he happened to need leather, he figured out that the bird's hide would do. He transforms his arm into a blade. And with what he learned in the lab, he gets down to skinning the bird. The moment he sinks his blade into the bird's skin, a large smell of poison fills the air. Nonetheless, Chien continues with skinning the bird and eventually he renders the dead bird bare. He now has a large hide that he can use as cloth, but he is disappointed that the hide is very stiff and in addition it has not been treated. Just then he remembers that he can actually tan the hide himself. He gets down to it and starts pounding the hide until it becomes very soft. Chien is proud of what he achieved and he wastes no time cutting the hide into shape. While he is doing this, the bird has suddenly come to life behind him. Using his fists, he tears the hide into the perfect shape that he wants for it to become a caveman cloth. He notices that not all of the poison has been dissipated, but he is too lazy to work on it, and he decides to just let it be. Just then, he hears the birds chirp, and he turns around to be met with the surprise that the bird was not actually dead. Shan notices that the bird is moving according to his words, ultimately suggesting that it might understand him. Shuren is more surprised that the bird is already showing all signs of death, but for some reason, it was still alive. Without thinking too much about it, he figures out that it is one of the immortal-type monsters. He knows that his old self would have killed the bird without thinking twice. But since the bird is already too weak to move, he doesn't see any reason why he has to kill it. He considers them both lucky beings, and he urges the bird to live its second life well, just as he also plans to. As he walks away, Xian mentions that they might eventually meet somewhere again if fate wants it. After he has solved his clothing problem, he figures out that the next thing on his agenda is to get himself a house. Qian starts looking around and the first place he finds is a cave where he runs into a giant centipede-type monster. Uninterested in living in such a dark place, he ditches it. But before leaving, he relieves the monster of its head. Upon leaving the cave, he wanders till he reaches the snowy mountains. He encounters some ice monsters, but he easily takes them out too. He considers the snowy mountains a no-no because it is going to be hard for him to find food. He continues his search for the perfect home, and after so much effort, he finally finds a location that suits him. There is a lake in the area and the vegetation is green with a hill circling the area. He checks out the lake and realizes that it is filled with fish that he can use for food. Everything that makes for a perfect home is present in the area. And without much debate on it, Xian figures out that he has found where to build his new house. Elsewhere, a mechanical-type Chimera just found itself in the demon realm. Since Chan has decided to build a house at the location, he finds a suitable plot and he turns his arm into long sharp blades. With just a swing, he cuts down timbers and arranges them. When he places the foundation timbers on the ground, he notices bumps and he fixes this by clearing the land until it becomes level. After he is done with this, he grabs the trees and he starts driving them into the four corners that will serve as the house post. After this, he laid planks on the house floor, and for the walls, he couldn't get his hands on nails, so he used slime from snail-type monsters. Apparently, the slimes are always very solid, but he doesn't know if it is going to be waterproof or not. For the finishing touches, he uses cocoon silk from silkworm larvae. Jen is pleased with what he has built, but he notices that something seems to be lacking. He starts thinking of what other human homes have that he is currently lacking. He thinks of a garden or even a dog, but he dismisses the idea since he can't raise a dog in the demon realm. He concludes that he is going to make a vegetable garden, but even this leaves him conflicted because he needs to think of something that will grow in the demon realm. Suddenly, it dawns on him that there is a snowy mountain close to him where he can get a particular plant called mandragora. Con immediately heads to the mandragora's habitat, which is the snowy mountains, where the demonic energy is thickest. The thick snow on the mountains made him remember when he was kidnapped as a kid and sent to the lab. Even though he went through pain, he can't deny the fact that becoming a Chimera has its perks. Some of the perks of being a Chimera are that he doesn't have to worry about the cold or hunger. Momentarily, he finds the mandragora's plantations. Apparently, the mandragoras are extremely stress-sensitive and they are like a sunfish-type monster. They basically can die from even the slightest environmental changes. Since he is planning on relocating the mandragora, he figures out that picking out the younger, more adaptable ones will be the best. The first thing he does is remove the roots, and he also thinks of covering his ears since they are notorious for screaming when disturbed. He pulls one of the mandragoras out, but to his surprise, it remains silent. He assumes it's a fluke and he pulls out another, but the result remains the same. In fact, the mandragoras are having a nice nap and couldn't care less. He pulls out several more, but none of them scream like he expected them to. Apparently, the scream happens when the plants are artificially grown by humans. Since the human world has low demonic energy, they are often stressed out, which is why they scream like hell. If they are forcefully pulled out, they also scream, and they end the sequence by dying. Since they are in the demon realm, the mandragoras have no reason to scream. However, Cheon is confused as to why the plants are not trying to run from him because they should at least be trying to run away. Suddenly, it dawns on him that he actually has mandragora cells in his body and they probably see him as one of them. He believes that this is a good thing because it is less stressful for him. John is already thinking of the nice things he can get by growing the mandragoras like tea and even eating them as snacks. However, forcefully taking their fruits makes them poisonous and Cheon figures out that he has to find a way to convince the plants to trust him. Just then, he notices that there are hunters in the vicinity and he decides to check them out since he is curious to know what they are doing in the dangerous snowy mountains. Meanwhile, two hunters are facing off against a horde of B-rank rabbit-type monsters after they are left behind by their comrades. The two hunters are barely surviving thanks to their barrier, but even this is about to shatter. The two start regretting their actions of becoming hunters among all the other jobs available to them. Just as they are about to be killed, something suddenly appears out of nowhere and hits the ground in front of them. This catches their attention and that of the rabbits, too. When the dust from the impact starts to clear off, they are surprised to see the image of a person approaching them, and it is none other than our MC. Cheon realizes that the monsters are engaging snow bunnies. And the moment the rabbit sense the aura coming from his body, panic sets in and they all vanish into thin air. The hunters cannot believe that B-rank monsters just ran away at the sight of Cheon. The two thanks Cheon for saving them and they introduce themselves to him. He also does the same, but the hunters are genuinely confused because they have never heard such a weird name before. Cheon then asks the hunters why they are in the demon realm because he can clearly see that they are low-rank hunters. The hunters confess that they did it because of money. Apparently, there was a task to capture a Chimera alive and the promised reward was very tempting. The moment they mention a Chimera, Cheon becomes defensive, assuming that they are talking about him. Just then, the hunters mention that the Chimera escaped from a lab and it is said to be a mechanical-type Chimera. Since he is not a mechanical type, he figures out that he has nothing to worry about. He plans on getting his hands on a gate crystal and then going back to his new house. Shun then asks the two where their gear is because he is pretty sure that they have gate crystals. The hunters then reveal that the dudes who betrayed them have taken all their gear with them. The hunters then ask Cheon if he has any plans to return to the human world soon because they are almost at their limits. Basically, humans can't stay long in the demon realm because of the demonic energy that will kill them. However, this has no effect on Cheon again. The hunters start begging Chien to save them, but just then Chien locates the traitorous hunters. He immediately flies in the air and heads for where the hunters are, while the two hunters almost crap their pants because their savior just disappeared right in front of them. Elsewhere, the hunters have managed to corner the Chimera and are prepared to take it down. The moment they start converging on it, the Chimera angrily activates its battle mode, ready to take on the hunters without fear. Momentarily, Kyan arrives at the last location where he sends the Chimera, only to find nothing but blood and the hunter gear. In addition to this, there is a child's footprint mixed with beast tracks, suggesting that the Chimera was changing form while fighting the hunters. Since the Chimera was made of liquid metal, it makes sense that it can freely change shape. However, the material used in making it is quite rare, which is why they made it small, not more than the size of a kid or a dog. Chien is impressed that the Chimera was able to take on 5 B-rank hunters who were after it. On the other hand, the two hunters are already at their limit, and one of them even has a baby on the way. They are expecting their certain demise when Shiraion shows up on the scene carrying their gear on his back. The hunters start begging him to save them. And just when he was about to ignore them, he remembers that the two have no gate crystals left. One of the hunters whips out 2 million won in cash, telling Kyan that they are ready to buy the stones if he has them. It is apparent that they are going to die if they don't get out of the demon realm and fast. Chien is blown away by the amount of money that he is being offered for the gate stone, even though he really doesn't need it. Nonetheless, he decides to take the money because he might need it when he finally decides to visit the human world. Chien then opens a gate for them and the hunter bows to him, assuring him that he is never going to forget the favor he just did for them. The hunter grabs his already exhausted friend so that they can leave. And this is when Kyan mentions that gate stones were always around 200,000. But the hunter tells him that prices have changed ages ago. The hunter asks Chien why he is interested in this, and he reveals he feels kind of bad that he extorted them. To get rid of this guilt, he decides to do something for them in return. He taps the exhausted hunter on the shoulder and starts infusing mana into his body, ultimately shocking the hunters. The technique is something that even A-rank hunters don't want to get involved with. This is because the manas might clash and tangle, which will rupture their mana holes, ultimately causing death. The hunters assumed that Shiraion was going to fail and they were going to die. But to their utmost surprise, he pulled it off and he purified the demonic energy. The hunters hugged each other tightly because they thought they were already dead. After he is done helping them, Chan decides that it is time for him to leave. The two start thanking him while wondering just how powerful his mana is for him to have easily infused it into the exhausted hunter. After the hunters are gone, he returns to his house and he is pleased that his trip went well. He notices that mandrioras are already awake and he figures that it is time to plant them. He finds a spot on the land where he plants the mandrioras, but they seem unhappy. Kyan wonders what is wrong with them and he tries feeding them some mana to make them feel better. Just as expected, their mood actually changed, leaving Xian relieved. Meanwhile, the mechanical Chimera is hiding the bush behind him. And even though he can sense the Chimera's energy, Chien decides not to make a move until it actually wants to connect with him. Chien steps into his house and he pours out everything he got from the hunters, including the cash. Among them are portable burner, 8 gate stones, spare clothes, and sleeping bags. Chien is glad that everything is just what he needed. And luckily for him, there is ramen in the bag, too. He remembered that the last time he had ramen was when he was at the orphanage. Since he is hungry, he decides to make ramen for himself. Following the instructions on the ramen pack, he grabs a pot and steps outside to get water. However, a fish comes flying out of the water to attack him. Since he is going to need other ingredients for the ramen, he smacks it to death and stuffs the fish into the pot. To add more ingredients to the ramen, he finds wild eggs, herbs to serve as onions, and stuffs everything into the pot. Meanwhile, the mechanical Chimera is watching and its stomach grumbles for food. Chien turned on the gas and started preparing the ramen, but the terrible smell from the ramen almost choked the mandrioras to death. Even though the food obviously smells really terrible, the mechanical Chimera is really interested in it. Since it wants to eat out of the food, it thinks of a genius idea and transforms into a dog. It learned that humans like dogs and in addition they feel more sympathy toward wounded animals. It approaches Chien like a dog, but Shiraion can easily sense that it is the mechanical Chimera. Chien assesses the situation and realizes that the mechanical Chimera is still young and learning. He wonders how the Chimera was able to escape the lab and make its way into the demon realm. Since the Chimera is willing to join him, he offers it the terrible-looking ramen that he made. The two sit together to eat and it reminds Cheon of when he and his fellow orphans enjoyed eating ramen in the orphanage. After they are done enjoying their beautiful meal, Kyan tells the Chimera that it can leave since he has to clean up. The dog turns around to leave, but as it walks away, Kyan reminds it that it was limping on its left foot earlier. The Chimera is shocked and realizes that it has been discovered, but it changes its supposedly affected foot and continues moving. Shortly afterward, he decides to try out laundry and packs out some of the clothes he got from the hunters. He figures out that he needs to do it since he can't be wearing leather clothes for the rest of his life when he is not a freaking caveman. He places the shirt on a rock and he figures out that he is just going to follow the instructions of how to do laundry that he already knows. He grabs a short stick and carefully hits the shirt. But to his surprise, even his gentle strike shatters the rock and shirt. Sean is hit with the frustration of what comes with being strong. But he finds solace in the fact that he has one more shirt to try. However, he notices that the mechanical Chimera is still stalking him. Even though it has refused to make contact, it is basically transforming into anything that fits its disguise, and it's watching his every move. With everything he has seen so far, Kyan figures out that the mechanical Chimera is still under the age of 5. In addition, it has an awkward mechanical speech, which Chan thinks is okay since it is just a side effect in young Chimias who had knowledge forcibly implanted into them. After a really tough moment, he finally pulls off doing the laundry and it comes out nice. However, it was after washing the shirt that he realized that it was too small for him. But instead of ditching it, he decided that he was going to just hang it on the line and leave it there as a trophy. After this, he figures out that checking on the mandrioras is the next thing on his list. Just as he left the cloth on the rope, the mechanical Chimera grabs it and puts it on just because it is imitating what he has seen in other humans. The mechanical Chimera declares that the shirt is finally its own. And to rock it better, it transforms into a young girl with beautiful long hair. While looking at the mandrioras, Chien realizes that they are acting really weird, which is not supposed to be so. The leaves on the plants are already wilting and the roots appear to be dry. Chien is confused because he pulled out all the weeds when he was making the field for the mandrioras. Chien then carefully investigates, and this is when he finds out that there are parasites underground that have been making life difficult for the mandrioras. He faults himself for not checking thoroughly, which almost led to the death of the plants. He figures out that he needs to make a proper garden, which is about the size of his house. Just when he's about to start, the Chimera shows up and greets him. Chien is shocked to see that the Chimera has changed into a girl and is even trying to talk to him. The girl asks Chien if the structure behind him is his house, and Chien says yes. She then asks if he is a native of the land, and the moment Xian hears this, he decides to mess with her a bit. Chien says he is a native and he asks the Chimera which tribe she's from. The Chimera is stunned by the question. But after giving it a quick thought, she mentions that she came from across the waterfall which is quite far away. She adds that it is so far that it is basically impossible for Kyan to find. Chien decides to play with her further by asking if it is from the coconut tribe which is by the waterfall. The Chimera quickly agrees to this, saying she is from the coconut tribe. Shiraion then mentions the outfit she is putting on, saying it obviously belongs to him. The girl argues that what they find in their tribe automatically belongs to them. Chien decides to back off, telling the girl that she is free to have it. Chien asks her why she is in the area and she explains that she was kicked out of the tribe, which is why she has a favor to ask. The girl tells Chien that she would like to live at his house, and she begs him to agree. Chien plays the role of a fool by asking her what she meant about living there, and she reveals that it seems to be safe. Kyan figures out that she needs a place to crash and he agrees, but he lets her know that she has to prove her worth. The girl agrees and she suggests that Chan give her a job to do. Chien then tells her that he is going to need her to till the field because he wants to build a new home for the mandrioras. The girl wastes no time grabbing the stick from him while assuring him that she is good at using her strength. She immediately trashes the ground, shocking Chien because the girl is not even trying to hide her own strength. Kyan then figures out that she is not used to being a normal kid, so she doesn't understand how they behave. Suddenly, the girl is hit with the "what is your name" question. The girl is shocked since she doesn't have one, but she decides to make a new name for herself. Judging by the flowers she saw earlier, she declares that her name is Kim Nari. Kyan figures out how she coined the name, but he is not ready to argue with her. Momentarily, she finishes up with the garden, and Chien sets up the stone fence. Chien then places the mandrioras there, and they obviously love the new setting. Chien notices that Kim Nari is crying and he asks her what the problem is. She mentions that seeing the mandrioras reminds her of her friends, leaving Chan shocked because he doesn't expect the lab to allow their products to be social. Suddenly, Kyan senses a strange aura in the air and he figures out that monsters are fighting each other. Nari then tells Kyan that she saw a chick monster earlier and judging by the aura in the air, the chick monster is being attacked. Chian is not moved, but he notices that Nari is uncomfortable, shocking him. Surprisingly, Nari wants them to save the monster, but she's having a tough time expressing it because of the commands that have been instilled in her. She basically has no free will of her own, but Cheon decides to help out. He tells Nari that the chick might actually survive if they help it. And this suggestion triggers Nari into charging toward where the chick monster is being attacked by a group of other annoying monsters. Nari angrily hits the monsters, telling them to stop bullying the chick. Switching to Nari's backstory, it turns out that she was bullied by her fellow experimental buddies because she was always diligent and she does everything asked of her. They basically gang up on her and beat her to a pulp, which is why she hates bullies. Fueled by the anger from the past, she beats up all of the monsters without mercy. Cheon is tending to the mandrioras when Nari returns with the white chick in her hand, but the chick is unconscious from the attack it suffered. Cheon is about to tell her what to do when he suddenly realizes that the chick is very familiar. Nari bursts into tears, begging Kyan to save the bird, and Shin offers to help. He places his hand on the chick and transfers mana into it since there are no signs of fatal injuries. While doing this, Kyan easily figures out that the chick was the immortal type monster that he took the hide from. However, Kyan is confused as to why the monster shrank to a small size, but he assumes that its regeneration method is different from his. After he is done feeding it with mana, Nari asks if the monster is facing any serious threat, but Shin mentions that it is basically malnourished. It was starving because of its small size, and Chien assures the girl that the monster will recover on its own since he has fed it some mana. Surprisingly, Nari is scared to leave the chick by itself. And she begs Chan, asking if she can raise the monster. She promises to train the monster properly and even feed it. Cheon tells Nari that the chick monster might end up being gigantic when it matures, but Nari doesn't mind, assuring Kyan that she is going to feed it just a little. Kyan is not ready to start going back and forth with her again, and he agrees for her to take care of it. Kyan believes that it will also come in handy if they just leave it in the yard to guard it. Momentarily, the bird monster wakes up and the moment it opens its eyes, it recognizes Chan. While Nari is celebrating that the monster is awake, the monster, on the other hand, is staring cautiously at the tough dude standing in front. The monster is also disgusted with the fact that it is being grabbed and thrown around by a little girl, leaving it to wonder how a little girl found its way into the demon realm. While Nari is hearing a sound, Kyan can hear the bird monster screaming for its life. Chien is shocked by the realization that he can understand what the bird is saying. Nari is excited to have a pet and she wastes no time bathing it. And she has even decided on a name for it. The best name she could come up with is Goo since the bird makes sounds like a pigeon. The monster bird cannot believe that they are basically picking out trash names for it. Jiyu gets on his feet and starts screaming at Nari, forcing the girl to believe that Jiyu is crying and wants more water. She doesn't hesitate before splashing it with more water. But this only makes life harder for Jiyu. Goo lies on the table, begging for Nari to stop with all the water splashing. Since Nari can't understand Jiyu, Kyan steps in and he tells Nari to hold off on the water splashing. Nari then decides that what Jiyu needs is food and she steps out to get food. Later on, Shryon figures out that he is going to need a storage space, and he sets down some trees so he can cut them into the sizes he wants. However, the tree breaks apart with the slightest touch, leaving Chan confused. He knows that he followed all the instructions that he is aware of, but Goo lets him know that he is getting everything wrong. Jiyu mentions that trees have different textures, and the one Chan is trying to cut is basically soft wood. Chien is surprised to learn that trees have different hardness, and Jiyu cannot believe just how dumb the guy is for not knowing. Chien then asks Jiyu what color signifies the hardest wood and Jiyu reveals that red-colored wood is the strongest. Suddenly it dawns on the chick monster that Chien can actually understand him, but to confirm it decides to create a telepathic bridge to get into Chien's head, but Kyan blocks it the instant he notices it. Guyan how he is able to understand it, and Kyan mentions that he is basically feeling human words popping up in his head. Kyan, on the other hand, thinks it is more weird that a monster can understand human words. Jiyu is hesitant to reveal how it can do this, but Chien figures out that it is one of the rare intelligence-type monsters born from low probability. Chien has always heard of it, but it's basically his first time seeing one in person. Chien then points out the fact that he and the monster have met before, and Jiyu doesn't deny this. In fact, Jiyu has been waiting to meet him again because he actually saved its life when he removed its poison-infested hide. Guess that whenever they met again, it was going to help Kyan, even if it was once. Kyan finally figures out that its immortality core remained because he got rid of the poison-ravaging goo's body back then. Since it is offering to help, Kyan asks if it is ready to render the help at that moment, and he says yes. Gu tells Kyan to follow it, and it will lead Kyan to where the red trees grow. They are about to leave when Nari comes rushing back with a hunter hot on her tail. The hunter uses ferret-type attacks which scare Nari. The hunter is not pleased with the fact that he has to attack a little girl. But at the same time, his whole life and career are on the line if he doesn't retrieve the mechanical Chimera. The hunter catches up to Nari, who has crashed to the ground in tears. He shoots a powerful flame attack to try and overwhelm Nari, but Kyan blocks the attack. Kyan looks absolutely pissed with Gu sitting on his shoulder as they aura farm their way into the scene. Kyan that he will tell Chien about the trees after they have saved Nari. Chien notices that Nari is acting totally out of it because she is afraid of fire, and he decides to put out the fire first. Gu is pissed that the hunter is bullying a kid, and the hunter on the other hand is pissed that someone he doesn't know is preventing him from carrying out his duties. Chien basically tells the dude to keep his mouth shut because he talks a lot. This pisses the hunter off and he angrily unleashes more firepower from his body, but Chien does something easy to subdue him. He hits the hill behind him with an energy blast that causes it to come crashing down on the hunter. The hunter realizes this very late, and before he knows it, he finds himself trapped under a bulk load of sand. Xian then checks on Nari to tell her that she has nothing to worry about again. He assures her that all she needs to do when she's scared of something is to knock it out. Shun then decides to check on the hunter. He grabs his head and tries pulling him from the sand, but to his surprise, the hunter's hair comes off. Shrion is surprised when he sees this, but he is totally blown away when he sees the hunter's ugly bald head. The entire team is surprised because the hunter looks so young, but he is already bald, which is why he is hiding his insecurity by wearing a wig. Nari forgets that she was crying herself to death some moments ago, and she starts laughing at Mr. Baldy. Chien, on the other hand, tries to assess the situation, and judging by the hunter's strength and Nari's strength, Chien doesn't think she should be losing to the likes of him. Since he wants to know what is going on, he resorts to the use of telepathy, which can help look into someone's memories. He senses that Nari is still scared of the evil scientist who worked on her, and Kyan pats Nari on the head for being a strong girl. Chien figures out that the trauma might not disappear immediately, but it will get better as time progresses. Chien is then left with what he is supposed to do with Mr. Baldy, and with a bright face, Nari says she has an idea. Momentarily, the hunter wakes up to find himself hanging from the waterfall. They have tied a big rope to a big stone, and he is strung to the rope. The hunter sees this and starts regretting all of his life decisions. Nari is in the distance, is having a laugh while Kyan tries to stop her from making fun of someone else's appearance. Chien then grabs the pot and fetches water from the river, claiming that it is for ramen. Nari is excited when she hears this because she believes that Xian's fish ramen is the best in the world. Xian teases her by asking her if the coconut tribe eats fish ramen, and she excitedly says yes. The hunter, on the other hand, is trying to understand his situation, and judging by Chien's appearance, he figures out that he is a rank at least. However, he doesn't rule out the idea that Shun might even be stronger than he thinks because there are reports of hunters who are pretty strong, but they operate from the shadows. While Chan is getting water for the ramen, Nari is busy catching fish left and right. Sean then tells her that they only need one fish, so she can let the rest go. Nari excitedly agrees with this, and Shan urges her to drop the fish in the pot. The hunter is horrified by what he is looking at as he cannot believe that the huge amount of water that they are fetching into the pot is what they plan to use in cooking the 3 packs of ramen. The hunter cannot stand the abomination that they are about to commit, and he screams at them, telling them to let him go so he can cook the ramen. Chien agrees and cuts him down from where he is so he can cook the ramen even though it is just ramen. The hunter can sense the immense pressure coming from the two, ultimately pointing out that he is dead meat if he messes it up. With sweat dripping from his face, he decides to go with the standard form of cooking ramen that he knows. He figures out that the amount of water that he needs will depend on what his sixth sense says it is. Since he is cooking 3 packs of ramen, he adds the sauce and noodles to the boiling water. And he figures out that he needs just a little over 4 minutes to get it done. To get the exact minute, he starts counting his heartbeat. And the moment he reaches 200, he starts implementing all the noodle techniques that he knows. The hunter wishes that he had some Kim Kai, but since he is in the demon realm, he can't. Nonetheless, he did his best, and he has no regrets about what might come after. Once he is done, he calls the group to ask if they are interested. They stare at the noodles, and Nari is the first to point out that the noodles look absolutely different from those Chien cooked. Chien and the group decide to try it out, and the moment they take a spoon out of it, they are sent into a food mix state because of the tasty ramen. Nari jumps off the table, telling Kyan how delicious the ramen is. Even GU is entirely blown away as he asks if humans are always eating such delicious food every day. Chien mentions that he's actually surprised, but he suggests that they finish the ramen first. Shortly afterward, they finish the food and deep down they wish the ramen hadn't finished. The hunter nervously asks them if they like the ramen, and the first thing Cheon asks him is what he actually wants. The hunter is confused by the question, and Kyan mentions that the ramen is too delicious for him to eat for free. Chien then urges the hunter to tell him what he wants, and if it is something within his power, he promises to grant it. The hunter Namkis is happy to hear this and he immediately falls face first, telling Cheon to teach him how to be strong just like him. Kyan is shocked to hear this as he asks Kishio why he is asking him to teach him when he is not his master. Kiss confesses that Kyan is the strongest hunter that he has met. In addition, Kisak can see that Chien has settled down in the demon realm, which is why he built a house there. Kiziok tries to point out the perks of having him around, and the standout perk is that he can cook. In fact, he is ready to become a delivery man who helps Kyan get things from the human realm. Kisok is very desperate to learn from Kyan so he can be promoted to a rank. Chien then asks Kissy if he attacked Nari because of the bounty. The hunter is surprised that the mechanical creature has gotten a name and Chien whispers in his ear telling him to go with the flow that Nari is from the coconut tribe. Kisyak mentions that he went after Nari because of personal reasons that are difficult for him to say, but he assures Chien that it is definitely not because of bounty. Kisyak then mentions that as long as he passes the hunter promotion test, he is not worried about anything else. After hearing his plea, Xian agrees to help him since he also made a delicious meal for him. To start the training, he suggests that they start with a sparring match first. Kisok is glad to hear this, but Nari cuts in saying she wants to be the one to spar with Kisok. Kyan asks her if she is confident about what she just said, and she reminds Kyan that he was the one who said scary things are to be knocked unconscious. Fueled with determination, she wants a chance to put out Kissio's fire, too. Kyan then points to a black rock, asking Kissio if he can break it. The rock is known as Black Ironstone, which is a stone that is said to be several times harder than diamond. Kissio is stunned by the request, and while he is still making up excuses of why he can't break the stone, Nari shatters it and demands that they engage in a sparring session. The next scene dives into Kishak's backstory, who was a naturally awakened hunter and considered a prodigy at that. He awakened his abilities when he was 8, which is a bit early since regular people awaken their abilities when they are 10 or older. Because he was hardworking, he was able to grow at a really fast rate and he reached B rank plus before the age of 20. Everything was going so perfectly for him until he realized that his hair had fallen out. In his early 20s, the crown on his head reduced drastically and by the time he got to his mid-20s, he developed a receding M-shaped hairline. Kizio started visiting pharmacies just to try and get a solution to the problem. However, the pharmacist told him to give up on trying to get a transplant because it would eventually fall out. He was once a handsome dude who had so much talent, but the hair issue made him lose his light. Because of this, his growth as a hunter also came to a full halt until one day, he saw a research program hosted by Dr. Han Mongdu of the Hanbit Research Institute. The doctor was talking about how he accidentally spilled the rare liquid material all over his head and surprisingly his hair grew a whole lot. Apparently, he is nearly 90 years old, but he has full hair on his head. This caught Kizak's attention, and he got up from where he was rotting on his couch. When Mongdu is asked about the remaining liquid metal, he mentions his plan to use the remaining liquid metal to create a mechanical life form and challenge for the big prize. KIO has a valid crash out when he realizes that the doctor has no plan to make a hair loss cure, which is considered the real use for humanity. A few days after this, Kyok reads in the news that the mechanical life form created by the Hanbit Research Institute has escaped into the demon realm. Since there are no laws in the demon realm, Kishio got out of his slumber and decided to find the mechanical life form so he could keep it for himself. He plans to pour all the metal thereon his head, but now that he is in the demon realm and sparring with Nari, he is getting beaten up. Kishio cannot believe that Nari is way stronger than him because he couldn't even land a single hit on Nari. Chien is disappointed and lets Kisok know this. However, Kisak is not a quitter and he assures his supposed master that he is going to do better. Later on, Kyan manages to get the storage cabinet done thanks to the tip he got from GU about the red wood. Even GU is proud of Chien's creation and it tells him that the cabinet will definitely last a long time. While everyone is busy with their own thing, Kisok is training really hard. Even though he is suffering in Nari's hands, he doesn't feel any sense of embarrassment. Instead, he feels a sense of freedom. He believes that this is because he has taken off his wig. Ji-yu is impressed with Kiseok's ability to control fire, but he is disappointed that he can't even beat a kid. Kyan then tells Gu that Nari is not just any kid, which makes it understandable. Because of his refusal to give up, he asks for another sparring match with Nari. This time around, he goes after Nari with a flame shaped in the form of a blade. He manages to land a hit on Nari, but she liquefies her body, shocking Kiseok. This leaves him in awe, but at the same time, totally open to Nari's attack. Nari easily returns to her human form and kicks him so hard that he crashes into the nearby hill, leaving a noticeable crack in the wall. Nari confidently mentions that he is no longer scared of fire, and this is all thanks to Kyan. While lying there in shame, Qian wonders if he has reached his limit as a B rank and no longer has any skill to boast of. However, Kiseok has an admirable trait of not giving up. And because of this, he gets back on his feet with an excited look on his face. He asks Nari for another session, but suddenly he notices that he has a nosebleed. And Cheon asks him how many days he has spent in the demon realm. Kiseok replies that he has been in the demon realm for 9 days. And Kyan suggests that he return to the human realm because at his current rank he is going to die if he stays any longer. Kiseok agrees with Kyan even though he wants to stay longer. Qian then tells him that he has the potential to become an A-rank hunter, and by this he urges him to continue working hard. Kiseok is shocked to hear this, but he no longer has any hope in himself because he has been failing the A-rank exam for 6 years straight. Apparently, there is a saying that if one can't pass the same rank exam in 3 years, the person is nothing but a lost cause. And for him to have failed 6 times already is just unprecedented. Qian then tells him that he can do it because his monohole hasn't fully developed. Qian urges Kiseo to make sure he purifies the demonic energy once he returns. Kiseok thanks Kyan for the advice and he assures him that he is going to do his best. Momentarily, Kiseo prepares to return and he asks Kyan if there is anything else that he needs because he can see that he is out of ramen already. Kyan doesn't ask for anything else aside from the ramen and Nari wishes him a safe trip. Kizuke urges Nari to continue training while telling her that he is going to win their fight the next time they clash. Before stepping off, Kiseok asks Chan if he has seen his wig, but he says no, that he hasn't. Once there is nothing else to do, he finally leaves. And after he is gone, Gu calls Qian's attention to the risk of Kiseok betraying them. Qian then asks Ji-yu what he thinks Kiseo would do since he can also read people's minds. Qian can see that Kiseok is not joking around with his quest to become stronger. And in addition to that, Kyan likes the fact that he is sincere. Just then, Nari asks Kyan if he can understand Ji-yu and he says yes. Qian then takes Nari into the house to show the cabinet he finished. He is proud of his creation, but Nari points out that the house is a bit dark. Shun agrees with her and decides that making a window should help solve that. Using his abilities, he cut out window spaces in the house, leaving Nari very excited. Since Nari likes everywhere when it is bright, Shryon points out the need for them to have lights at night so that everywhere is not dark. Qian says there is a stone known as glowstone, which emits light in the dark, and putting up a few will brighten things up. Guyan if he even knows where he has to go to find the glowstone, and he says yes. Apparently, they can be found in the volcanic region and this is a region that is considered to be one of the most dangerous places by hunters. Gu then mentions that this place is his hometown. But while saying it, he looks dejected. Chan is surprised to see this since he expects him to be happy because going home is a good thing. Nari asks Chan what Ji-yu is saying and Cheon simply reveals that Ji-yu is upset about something. Since Ji-yu is worried about the volcanic region, Kyan says he will be going by himself. So, the two are free to stay at the house. Nari refuses saying she has to go with Qian because she has overcome her fear of fire. Qian is impressed that the girl managed to overcome her fear pretty fast. Qian then asks Ji-yu if he is interested in going. Reluctantly, he replies that he would, and this is because he has some unfinished business back there. Since they are all in agreement to go, Qian reveals that he is going to make some equipment for Ji-yu to use in the volcanic region. Meanwhile, in the Mandriora plantation, they are busy playing with Kisuk's wig that they stole. Apparently, the volcanic region is largely avoided because of the volcanic ash that tears against the skin, the concentrated demonic energy that is liable to kill from just a single breath, and the toxic gas. It is also one of the reasons why it is almost unknown to the human world. But the moment the team arrives there, Nari is already playing around with fire, literally. Guys, the girl is acting all weird, and this is because she is a mechanical life form. However, he is more interested in what Shryon is. Kyan simply replies that he is a Chimera hunter, but this surprises Gu since he knows that Chimera hunters are not always in human forms. Kian mentions that he was always like that, but the moment he regenerated, his form changed. Kian then asks Gu if he is fine hanging out with them since he is a monster and might not be too comfortable around a hunter. Gu assures Kian that he has nothing to worry about with them since he enjoys having someone he can talk to. While the two are discussing, Nari shows up to complain about the fact that she can't hear Gu, unlike Kian. Qian then tells Nari that all Gu wanted to know was his origin. Nari quickly cuts in, saying she is a native, but Gu knows better. They continue exploring the hot and boiling land, and Kian mentions that they should be able to find the luminous stones near the lava sprouts. Momentarily, they get to the summit and can see the stones in front. However, they notice a male fire toad that appears to be crying in the distance. Surprisingly, there is a dead female fire toad in front of it, which is why the toad is crying. Apparently, the female was transporting their eggs when she died. Gu mentions that only the females can carry the eggs, and since it is already dead, there is a high chance that all the eggs will die, too. In addition, the temperature inside the crater is too hot for the eggs to survive. As expected, Nari feels pity for the toad, and Kian decides to step in. Kian jumps toward the toad while Guy's warning it not to go near it because the toad is clearly agitated. Just as predicted, the toad attacks Qian with its fire breath, but Kian blocks it with just one finger. Before the toad knows it, Kian has reached him and he taps its head with just one finger. It turns out that Kian hit the toad with a paralytic poison when he tapped it on the head. This causes the toad to lose mobility, but Qian is quite aware that the toad will wake up soon since he only used a bit of the poison. In addition to that, the fire toads are quite resistant to poison. From the summit, Nari screams at Qian asking him if he is okay. Qian replies that he is fine because he actually has fire toad cells in his body. Chan says they might not be able to do anything about the dead toad, but he believes that they can still save the one alive. Shen then gathers the eggs and places them on the back of the male toad before tying it securely to make sure it doesn't fall off. The male toad is shocked when he comes back to his senses to see that he is now carrying the eggs. It moves over to its dead partner and says its goodbyes before leaping off a great distance. Before making his final leap away from the area, the fire toad looks back to briefly stare at Nari and she concludes that the toad was trying to thank them. Since they have finished with the toads, Cheon tells Nari to come down so that they can get the stones. Nari excitedly grabs the stones off the volcanic pit, but Cheon warns her to be careful because she is going to hurt her foot if she drops them. Nari giggles jokingly, saying the stone is nothing compared to her strength. Gu, on the other hand, is struggling to carry the stones, and he blames this on his little body. Qian then urges him to go take care of his business while he takes care of the stones. Qian believes that Gu even brought gifts for his friends, but Gu retorts, saying monsters don't have friends. In fact, he is not planning on meeting them, but he just wants to drop the gifts and leave. Qian is impressed that Gu is missing his kin, which makes him a very intelligent monster. Gu, on the other hand, deludes himself by saying he is not missing them, but regrets not saying goodbye to them when he left. Chan then asks Gu why he left his pack. Gu then mentions that there were good things that came with his intelligence awakening and there are bad things too. Apparently, Gu felt he never would have felt the emptiness that is currently ravaging him if he hadn't learned the language. Gu felt superior and alone since he couldn't properly relate to anyone, which is why he left the pack. In fact, his pack doesn't know he is gone, but he doesn't blame them since they really don't have the sense of kinship. In the process of removing the stones, Nari suddenly stumbles upon an egg, which is obviously a monster egg, but she has no idea which one it is. However, there was a slight crack on the egg when Gu almost fell and dropped the stone he was carrying. Qian is worried that the hatchling might have a problem because it actually needs to break out of the egg on its own to be able to grow strong and healthy. Nari is concerned and she suggests that they take the egg with them so it doesn't cook. Gu is against this since they don't know what type of monster will hatch from it. Shon on the other hand is thinking about a perfect solution. He has a place that he believes would be perfect for a nest, and in addition to that he is a bit curious about what is inside the egg. After careful consideration, Chan decides that they will be taking the egg back home. Gu remains adamant that they should leave the egg because he has never seen an egg like that before. Chan then uses the guilt trip card on him, asking him why he dropped the stone to crack the egg in the first place. Gu accepts the blame but reminds Chan that Nari might get hurt because of the stupid decision he is about to make. Chan then tells Gu that they have nothing to worry about as long as he is around. Gu takes into account what he said and he agrees for them to take the egg home. Since they have all agreed to take the egg back home, Qian suggests that they continue with their stone mining. Soon afterward, The group returns home to see that Kiseo is back. Chien is surprised that the dude returned early. Kiseok then offers to carry Chien's bags for him, and Chien decides to hand him the bag since he claims that he is strong. Kissy collects the bag, but he immediately drops it as if he were handed Thor's hammer. Just then, Kyan notices that Kiseok's face is covered in bruises, and he asks him what happened to him. Back at the volcanic region, Gu's gift to his kinsman is the ramen packs that he left for them. Chien figures out that Kiseok must have gotten beaten up somewhere, but this is a shock to him since Kiseo doesn't appear to be the type of guy to be bullied. Kiseo tries to defend his aura-reducing moments by saying Nari usually beats him, but Kyan can't believe that the dude is actually proud of it. To avoid getting questioned by Kyan, Kio runs off, saying he needs to prepare food for them. Moments later, Nari finds Chien working on the stones, and he asks him what he is doing. Chien mentions that he is working on the lamp by cutting and shaping the stones. Chien tells Nari that he is going to hang the glow stones on the ceilings, and he assures her that it will turn out nice. Nari commends Kyan for being a smart guy and the fact that he explains things in detail too. In addition, Nari believes that Kyan is a kind-hearted person just like her father. Chien milks the opportunity by asking her if she is talking about her daddy who is in the coconut tribe. Nari tries to play along too by saying yes. Shortly afterward, a fight breaks out between Gu and the Mandrioras because he believes that they invaded his territory. Later on, Kisak finishes making one of his special dishes, tofu pockets. He serves the dish and urges the group to dig in. Even though Kyan is interested in the food, he tells Kiseo that he would like to know what actually happened to his face. Kiss mentions that he went to the Hunter Association to apply for the promotion exam, but he ran into some A-rank hunters and they teased him for failing 7 years in a row, which eventually led to a fight. Before he even finishes his story, the group has finished their food and is asking for more. Kiseok mentions that the hunters told him to stop hanging around since he is nothing but a total failure. Kiseo says they kept teasing him about his hair, which was why he fell for their taunts and ended up fighting them. Chien then asks him if he is totally bald or if he shaved his head. Apparently, his hair loss remains a medical mystery that no one has been able to get a solution to. Chien then asks him when the next promotion exam is, and Kio says it's in 90 days. Since they have little time left, Chien suggests that it is time for them to engage in special training. Kiss is eager about the training, and he assures Chien that he is going to do anything he asks him to. Chien shocks him when he says the first thing he is going to do is to take over the dishes from Nari. Kisak is still crying about the dishes when Kyan tells him that he has to wash the remaining glowstones to get rid of the volcanic ash on them. Kiseok is shocked by this, leaving him to remind Cheon that he mentioned something about special training. Chien then tells him that he is free to ignore the training if he wants to live the rest of his life as trash. Kyan then turns to Nari, telling her that they need to go fishing to aid their digestion. Nari is excited about this, and Kiseo on the other hand figures out that Kyan must have a reason to tell him to wash the dishes. Instead of complaining, Kiseok gets down to the dishes because he is a man who worked really hard to get to B class. Kiseok doesn't waste any moment in glazing himself about all the good qualities that he has. Kisuk runs after Nari and Kyan and he joins them at the river. While Nari and Kyan are trying to catch fish, Kiseok is busy doing the dishes, but he is having a hard time with the fish. Apparently, his type of power makes it hard for him to deal with aquatic animals. Chien is utterly disappointed in Kiseok, and he tells him that his mana has its uses. He tells him to put up a shield with his mana, and Kiseok mentions that he is always trying to, but it has never worked. Upon hearing this, Chien grabs a glow stone and tells Kisak to hold it. Kiseok is surprised that he is asked to hold a glow stone all of a sudden, but just then, the stone drops from his arm. This is when it dawns on him that the stone is basically demonic energy at its core and he can't put enough strength into holding it. Chien says Kisak is right because some glowstones contain condensed demonic energy and the demonic energy from the demon realm is raw, unrefined power. Chien explains that he has to use refined mana to push it out before he gets to properly use his power. Chien lets Kisak know that he has a lot of mana in his body, but he is just unskilled on how to control it. Chien taps a point on his chest and asks him if a path has opened in his body. Just as Chien said, Kiseo can feel mana surging through him, and Chien urges him to follow the path that he just opened. Chien then tells him to focus on his mana while trying to lift the glow stone. Kiseok does as instructed, and after struggling a bit with the stone, he is finally able to lift it up. Kiss is impressed that doing the dishes and washing the stones were all part of Chan's plan. Since Kiseo is happy doing it, Chien tells him to continue channeling his mana while also taking care of the dishes. Excited about the whole situation, Kiseo assures Kian that he is ready to do everything he mentions. Chian is also impressed by his determination and sheer will because deep down, Chian is confident that Kiseo is capable of doing it. That night, Kian hangs the glowstone in the ceiling, and it makes for a good lamp. While everyone else is sleeping, Gu is the only one with the egg because he slept earlier in the day and there is nothing like sleep in his body again. Suddenly, he sees Nari stand up from her sleep like a zombie and she starts walking out of the house. Surprisingly, Nari walks out of the house to take care of her clothes because it is dirty. Chan-gu stays in the distance to wonder why the girl is doing laundry in the middle of the night. Ji-yu believes that she needed to do it since she is a girl and doesn't have any other clothes. Momentarily, Nari walks out of the water with happiness that she has done her laundry and it is now clean. She is celebrating her small win. When Chian steps out, acting like he is out to get fresh air. When Nari asks him what he is doing outside, he claims that he is on a walk with Gu. Chian also asks her if she is on a walk, and she nervously says yes. Chan then tells Nari to stay still, and he puts a belt and her flower on her waist. Nari loves the new addition because it makes her look cool. Suddenly, they hear something irritating from the forest, and this scares Nari. But Shane assures her that she has nothing to worry about because it is just a grasshopper. They start walking back home, and Shan asks Nari if there is anything else that she needs, like clothes and shoes. Nari then says she is pleased with the ones Chan has given her already. Later on, Shun steps out of the demon realm wearing a nice outfit, but with no shoes. He intends to go shopping because of Nari, and the passers-by look at Shane like he is some sort of insane person. Shryon can't get Nari out of the demon realm since she has a tracking device embedded in her and also she is also suffering from trauma. Shryon never believed he would find himself in the human realm because of a kid's clothes. While he is standing around looking for the clothing store, he is approached by a rugged-looking kid who assures him that he can help him find the clothing store for 10,000,001. Since he can clearly see that Xian is not from around there, he assures him that he can lead him to a store. Qian is willing to pay, but he tells the dude that he doesn't have small bills with him and would only pay when he gets smaller change. The kid is not impressed that a hunter has no 10,000,001 on him, and he assumes that Xian is a rookie who got scammed. Nonetheless, he still asks Qian to follow him since he looks like he has money to buy clothes. As they are walking through the street, he introduces himself as Oangu, and Qian notices the police patrol cars stationed around, making him believe that the slum is now safe. Bongu then mentions that he can clearly see that Qian has not awakened for long because he came out of the gate without any equipment. To Bongu, he believes that Qian was robbed by other strong dudes, but he gives Qian a word of advice that he should not give up. Qian thinks the kid is wise for his age, but he argues that he is not a kid because he is 17 years old. Suddenly, they spot some thugs in front and Bongu tells Qian to avoid the district at all costs because it is the most dangerous slum out there. Apparently, the Space Gang was once in District 11, but they have expanded their territory to District 13. Bongu says the police don't even go there anymore. And this is when Bongu reveals that they are actually standing in District 12. This got Xian worried as he wondered if the orphanage where he lived in District 13 was still there. Meanwhile, inside a children's clothing store, the owner is already regretting her decision to open a children's store inside the slum, and she is thinking of switching businesses when Qian enters the store. After a funny interaction between Bong-su and the store owner Park, he tells her that Qian is there to purchase some clothes. Park angrily grabs Bong-su by the cheeks, telling him to stop bringing broke hunters to her store because she has a lot of them owing her already. Park has already written Qian off because of the way he is dressed. Apparently, she was the one who told Bong-su to bring pitiful hunters to the store because they remind her of her late brother. Park admits this, but says she will eventually run out of business if she continues helping. While the two are busy arguing like a couple, Shryon is checking the clothes in the room. Just then, Qian cuts in, telling them that he wants to buy clothes and brings out a 10 million won bill, saying it is all the money he has. The moment they see this, their reception changes as Park starts acting like a good store owner while Bongu carries a plate of snacks and a drink for him. Park starts marketing all the clothes that she has in the store. Shryon then tells the store owner that he needs clothes for a middle-aged girl and himself. Park is glad to hear this and she jumps right into her store to start bringing out the beautiful clothes that she has. By the end of the day, Qian has bought out every piece of clothing he can from the store and the store owner wishes that her day could just continue the way it is. After packing everything, she offers to get them delivered, but Qian assures her that he can carry them by himself. Qian then brings out a 100,000 won for Bongu and he tells him that he has another favor to ask him. After they step out of the store, Bong-su stays silent until he leads Qian to an inn that he had asked for. He assures him that the inn is safe because there is a police station nearby and the owner is a nice person. After hearing this, Kyan steps in, telling Bongu to wait outside for him. Bongu stands outside thinking about what happened in the store. He believes something is off because Kyan gave him 100,001 and also bought him clothes. He believes that Chien is one of the guys who lures kids to kidnap them, leaving him with the option of whether to run or not. At the same time, he thinks about it and realizes that Chien might actually be a good person. Momentarily, Kyan returns outside and says that Bongu was right about the owner being nice. Suddenly, he hands Bongu a key, saying he can clearly see that he is living on the streets. Chien has paid a year's rent in advance so he can start living there. And in addition, he has paid for his meals, too. Chien tells Bong-su to make sure that he eats properly. And after sorting everything, he tells Bong-su that he is leaving. Just as Kyan is about to enter the gate to go back to the demon realm, Bongu is forced to ask him if he has an ulterior motive because he just met him that very day. Bongu cannot believe that Chien did all the nice things for him. And Chien tells him that doing all he did basically reminded him of how things used to be. Chien mentions that he was once like Bong-su even though it was a long time ago. With this, Chien steps into the demon realm and by the time he returns, Nari is already worried because Kyan stepped out without saying anything. Kyan then mentions that he went out to get Nari gifts. He drops the bag with her and it is essentially filled with nice clothes. Nari is super excited about the nice clothes that Shiraion bought for her and he urges her to take them into the house to try them on. In a quick revelation, it was Kesak's clothes that Shiraion borrowed to go to the human world and he didn't even get him anything when coming back. Later on, Chien sits down to fold the clothes while Nari tries on some. Chien is glad that Nari is excited about the clothes that he bought for her and she also looks cute while wearing them. After trying out a few, she finally picks her best one, which is the one with a chick drawing in the middle, and she claims it looks like Gu. Gu cannot believe that he is being compared to a dull chicken drawing on a cloth. Chien then offers her the chance to try folding the rest of the clothes herself, and she happily accepts it. Gu mentions that there is no room in the house for all the clothes that Kyan brought back. Chien says he's been thinking about this, and his solution is that they are going to expand the house so he can create a walk-in closet and then install a built-in wardrobe. Gu is worried that they need to start cutting trees for this, but Shiraion tells him that he has the perfect person who would help them out. Just then, he summons Kishio, telling him that he has another special training for him. Kishok is excited to be called upon and he informs Chien that he has cleaned his training outfit and by this he is talking about Chien's ragged outfit. Kishok mentions that it was soaked in poison and because he didn't know, he almost died just by touching it. Kissy believes that Chien intentionally left the poison on the outfit to train himself to get stronger. Unknown to Kishio, Chien was just too lazy to wash it. And suddenly, he tells Kishio that he is free to wear it. Chien plays the perfect card by telling Kiok that it is going to make for the perfect training uniform. He tells him to put it on and go chop down some wood. Gui Gator steps in, saying he will be the one to even pick out the woods for him. Kioak immediately becomes worried because he might actually die just by wearing the outfit, and Xian is making it harder by telling him to go chop down trees. Suddenly, Nari screams at them from inside the house, saying there is something wrong with the egg. The group enters the house, and Shiraion believes that the egg is about to hatch, which is why the movements are getting violent. Kisok is worried that a disaster-grade monster will come out of the egg, but Nari disagrees, saying it is going to bore a cute monster. The two are arguing when the egg starts to hatch, and what comes out first are some really sharp claws. The group remains curious until the entire egg hatches, revealing the creature inside. But Nari and Kiok are entirely confused because the creature is not one they have seen before. It has the body of a snake while its feet look like those of a bird. The creature wastes no time jumping from the table onto Kisio's face and he almost dies from fear. Later on, Kisio begins cutting down the trees as requested by his master. Gu sits on his head to monitor and supervise and while cutting the trees, Kisio is having a really tough time because of the poison present in the outfit. Kiss cannot believe that Kyan was perfectly walking around in the damn outfit. Chien, on the other hand, just had a good time after folding clothes. Nari then shows up with the creature in her hands, telling Kyan that it appears to be an obedient and nice creature. Chien believes that the creature is loyal to Nari because it can figure out that she was the one who saved its life. However, the question of what they are going to name it remains. Chien then suggests that they name it Sosa because it is part snake. Nari is still discussing this with Chien when Sosa jumps off and runs toward the woods. Chien is glad that the two are having a good time together, which speaks well for the family. Chien then tells Gu that he has never seen a creature like Sosa before, and Jiyu says the same thing, which possibly means it's a rare species. However, Jiyu knows that it is certain that the monster is from the volcanic region, and because of this, they need to keep an eye on the Mandrioras. Apparently, monsters from the volcanic zone consider plant-type species a delicacy. Basically, they munch on any plant that they see since plants are scarce in the region. In addition to this, they like plants that are filled with strong demonic energy. Because of this, Gu is confident that the monster will try to dig up the Mandrioras so it can eat them. Just like Gu predicted, the monster has already made its way to the Mandrioras field, and a star-own ensues between them. Nari wants to stop them, but Cheon says there is no need for this. He believes that they are monsters and they need to get a go at each other, even wants to sort out their differences. Since Sosa is still quite young, Kain doesn't think it poses much danger to the plants. Just then, Sosa aims for the smallest Mandriora, but the biggest one blocks it. The Mandriora immediately jumps into a defensive then counterattack formation, and just as expected, the second Mandriora launches the counterattack. However, Sosa blocks the attack with its tail while looking like it's smiling. However, the third one already uses the opportunity to close down on Sosa. In the end, the Mandrioras beat Sosa up and it starts crying. Sosa ends up running away, and Kain mentions that the Mandrioras are the winners of the first round of the fight. Since the show is over, Chien suggests that it is time they return to what they were doing. 2 days later, Kisio completes the extension of the house and Kioak gladly dumps the outfit with tears of joy running down his cheek. He wonders if he did it well, but Xian shows up praising him for even doing it better than expected. Nari is also impressed because the house smells like flowers, and this is thanks to Gulu picking out aromatic wood for the building. Chien is confident that all the clothes stored there will also smell nice. When Kisuk learns that Chien has given the new monster a name, which is Sosa, he proposes a supposedly better one. Chien tells him to reveal his proposed name, and he ends up picking Snake Chick, which is the dumbest name a human can think of. Nari suggests her own name, but it turns out to be Trash, too. Jiyu wants to join the conversation, and Kain decides to ask him for his real name since he claimed he had one before. Gu then reveals that his real name is Rocky Mountain Hoof, which basically expresses his identity. Chien heaves in disappointment since he is living with a bunch of dull brains. Since no other person can come up with a better name, the group just sticks with Sosa. Since they are done with the house extension, Gu asks Chien what their next plan is. Chien then reveals what he thought about when he was in the human realm. He suggests that they build a sturdy fence around the house to stop monsters from coming in even when he is not around. Kioak stares at the house and doubts if anyone or any monster in their right senses would try to approach the scary house. Chien then says an S-class monster or rogue hunters might show up. Since they are looking to keep people out, Gu says it has to be made from materials with dense demonic energy. And to get this, they are going to have to go to the coastal area. Apparently, there is a yellowish quartz there that is even harder than blackstone. Shen already imagines how beautiful the fence is going to look if they attach glowstones to it too. While Nari and Gu are excited that they are going to the coastal area, Kishio is having a nightmare about it. Kisak is scared to death, but just then he gets a nosebleed, which means he has to return to the human world. Kisak cannot be happier because it happened at the right time. Kisak immediately tells Kain that he needs to head out to get meds for demonic energy, and Kain agrees. He tells him to take care of the Mandrioras just in case they come back late. Kisio then tells Kain to be careful of the coastal region because it is a dangerous place for A-rank hunters and below. Basically, the region is being ruled by 2 Disastera monsters. This is the first time Chien will hear this, and Kio explains that reports said that they are Chimera hunters who escaped the lab a long time ago. Apparently, they have the heads of birds, but their bodies maintain their human form. Meanwhile, some hunters are practically going up against the said disaster-class monsters. They land a direct tracking hit, causing the monsters to turn in the opposite direction. They believe it is running away and suggests that they pursue it. However, one of them says they should wait until the monsters reach their shelter before taking them out. The hunters are surprised that even after 60 years, the monsters are not dead yet. They believe that the shamas have completely turned into monsters, and the hunters are not ready to allow the monsters to tarnish the great achievement that came with the creation of Chimera hunters. Suddenly, they notice that the monster is not even running away, but aiming straight for them. The team leader orders his men to put up a barrier against the incoming attack. However, their barrier didn't do much against the monster as it shattered it with just a single blow. This is when it finally starts to dawn on them that they have misjudged the monster's strength. The monster comes at them again and is about to finish them off when Nari appears on the scene to punch the monster while telling it to pick on people its own size. The monster figures out that Nari is a chimera and he leaps backward to reassess the situation. Nari then tells Kyan that the monster is bullying the hunters, but Kyan thinks it is actually the wrong way. Just then, the hunters get the wind that the mechanical chimera is around them. This is when it dawns on Chan that Nari still has a tracking device embedded in her. In addition, Chian seems to know the birdhead dude. Kyan then screams at him, reminding him that they were roommates, but he can't seem to remember his tag number. While Chian is discussing with the birdhead, the hunter suggests that it would be best if they retreat and return to the human world. However, they plan to come back stronger. And the moment Chan hears this, he knows that they are going to be a pain. Without hesitation, he suggests that he and the birdhead take care of the situation. It turns out that the bird was truly his roommate, number 33. Number 33 also recognizes the smell coming from Cheon, and he is able to figure out that he is number 17. 66 years ago, in a forest close to the TDA laboratory, number 33 was seen carrying a little girl on his back as they tried to escape the lab. Apparently, the little girl was named Jia then, and number 33 was struggling to get them both to safety. As they run through the forest, they suddenly run into little Chian, who tells number 33 that he heard about his side effects and the fact that they are getting worse. Chian told him that it would still end badly for him if he didn't return in 3 days because the detonation spell would kick into play and kill him. However, Chian says his sister Jia is not scheduled for termination yet. Chian suggests that number 33 stay back at the lab where he can get suppressants for his side effects so he can live a bit longer, even if it is a day. Number 33 then tells Kyan that he is never going to know how they feel since he has no side effects like the rest of them. Number 30 lies his sister down and tells Chan that all he cares about is living freely. And to get this, he is ready to fight Chan to get out of his way. Just then, Chan opens a gate to the demon realm for him, shocking number 33 because he never expected him to have a gate stone. Basically, they know that there are 2 options for them if they step into the demon realm. It's either their human cells get poisoned by the demonic energy or their monster cells absorb the demonic energy and get activated. Kyan lets number 33 know that the demon realm is the best option for him since he wants to live freely until he dies. Basically, the lab's detonation spell won't activate if they cross into the demon realm. Number 33 asked Kon if there was a way to survive in the demon realm and he told him that he would have to build up enough mana to protect his human body and mind from the demonic energy. Khan admits that it might not be easy for him because of his current abilities, but he is pretty sure that the future holds uncertainty. Number 33 says he might not know why Chian is helping them, but he is taking the help nonetheless. Before entering the demon realm, number 33 says they have been roommates for 4 years, but still do not know each other's names. This is when number 33 finally reveals that his name is Yubum. Now in the present, Shryon puts the hunters in a state of mind control to erase their memories. And once he realizes that it is working perfectly, he lets them go. Apparently, Chian has the cells of an oblivion herb transplanted into his body, and this causes hypnosis and memory loss. Yubum cannot believe the number of things that were injected into Chian's body just because he never showed side effects. Chian lets the dude know that a lot actually happened after he left. Nari then drags Kyan's clothes to ask him if he knows Yubum from somewhere. Since they are playing the native game, Kyan tells Nari that Yubum is from the Sparrow tribe, shocking Yubum himself. Chian even makes it more fun by teasing Nari, asking her if the Sparrow tribe and the Coconut tribe are allies. Nari quickly answers that they are actually allies. While the two are saying this, Yubi remains totally confused. Just then, Nari bows her head to apologize to Chan, saying she attacked him because she thought he was a bad person. Nari immediately starts complaining about hunger and Kyan asks Yubum if he has any food at his house. Yubum is still confused by the whole thing playing out in his presence because he doesn't want to believe the fact that Kyan is raising a daughter. Momentarily, Yubum takes the group to his house, which is built like a real bird's nest. Chian commends Yubum, telling him that he actually built his house very well. Yubum then brings out a plate of grilled clams that he made, which he even added demon butternut to. Just from looking at it, it appears to be delicious already. And the moment Jiyu and Nari taste it, they find themselves in food heaven. Even Kyan admits that the food tastes really good. Even the red moss that Yubum added to it. Yubum takes pride in his cooking as he mentioned that the red moss is an all-purpose seasoning. Yubum is about to tell them to eat slowly when he hears Nari screaming for more. Yubum almost faints from a heart attack because he is out of ingredients. Since Nari enjoyed the food so much, she offered to go catch some clams so that Yubum could make the dish again. Yubum then mentions that it might be a bit dangerous for her to catch the clams, but Nari runs off, promising to catch as many as she can because she wants to eat to her heart's content. While the kids are gone, the elders are left to discuss the aftermath of his departure. Yubum is impressed when he hears that Chien actually came back to life thanks to the immortality cells inside him. Yubum then asks Chien if he plans on getting back to the laboratory. Chien confesses that sometimes he actually feels like it, but he thinks he already has a good life, so he doesn't need to rush things. Chien then asks Yubum if he plans on getting revenge, too. Yubum then mentions that the spells in Chien's body might have disappeared after he came back to life, but the same cannot be said for them. As for them, they still have the detonation spells in their bodies. Yubum is pretty sure that they are going to explode the moment they return to the human world. Kyan notices that Yubum can control his wings, but he asks him about his head and if it has ever returned to normal. Yubum then mentions that he can actually change it back, but he is intentionally keeping it the way it is. Apparently, his sister's face has changed, and if he looks normal, her sister will definitely feel bad. Just then, Cheon asks Yubum a delicate question, which is whether he knows that he has just a month left to live. Yubum is not surprised by this because he already knows, too. Yubum admits that it was tough when he first arrived in the demon realm and he had to gather mana just to survive. Later on, he felt that his mana and demonic energy were at the same level, and because of this, Yubum was at peace for a long time. However, something terrible happened sometime not too long ago. Jia's manole got tangled and her demonic energy started to run rampant. Yubum says he tried to force it open, but this damaged his own manole in the process. Yubum says he has been managing it, but Jia has been sleeping because she prefers to eat fruits with sleeping poison. Chien figures out that Jia intentionally puts herself in a state of komio mass to slow down the demonic energy ravaging her system. Just then, it dawns on Kyan that there is a potion that can be made with mandragora to heal the mana hole. Chien figures out that Yubum didn't know this, which is why he has not done it. Meanwhile, Jia is having a tough time in the cave where she is hiding. Yubum is ultimately shocked when he learns that he and Jia can live. Chien doesn't blame Yubum's ignorance because he himself only knew everything because he studied pharmacology at the lab from age 15. Chien tells him that all he needs is to drink refined water from a monohole infused with the leftover roots of a mandragora. Chien always thought the leftovers were insignificant, but they actually absorbed demonic energy underground, then sprout into new entities, even multiplying into more. It is basically a source of vitality on its own. Because of this, any refined water made from its leftover roots shows remarkable effects in regenerating mana holes. Kon never thought it would be of use to him, but he is thankful. He is actually raising mandragoras. Cheon then tells Yubum that he will leave to get him some. Yubum is shocked to hear that Chan is willing to go to the human realm to get refined water. Cheon points out the obvious fact that Yubum can't go because of the curse on him, which is why he needs to be the one to go. However, he urges Yubum to keep an eye on Nari and Gu while he is gone. Since the alchemist who will make the refined water will demand payment, Kyan asks Yubum if he has any money, but he says no. However, he has a load of other stuff that he collected from hunters. Chien takes the items and assures Yubum that they will be enough for what he wants. Chien heads to the human realm and he meets with Bongu to tell him that he needs an alchemist. Thankfully, Bongu has become a respectable guide and he tells Chien about a branch of alchemy that opened in the slums. He plans to lead Kyan there since it is their best chance at finding what he needs. Chien notices that Bongu is wearing sandbags on his arms and legs and he asks him why. Bongu mentions that he is building his stamina so he can become strong just like Chien. Chien is surprised to hear this and Bongu tells him that he already figured out that Chien is an incredible hunter because he basically enters the demon realm with nothing but his bare body. Momentarily, they arrive at the alchemy shop and Bongu tells Kyan that a new branch manager arrived not long ago and it said that he is really skilled. In addition to his skills, he has a good personality. Just then, they spot the said manager in the distance, getting a call from the loan shark. Bongu mentions that the manager originally worked at the Gold City branch for 20 years, but he was demoted and transferred to the slums, and in addition, they slashed his salary, too. Chien believes that the dude did something wrong, which is why he was obviously demoted. Bongu then explains that, from what he heard, one of his higher-ups was secretly taking money from the packages meant for the slums. However, when the alchemist Kim reported it, he was thrown out for being a troublemaker, which is how he ended up in the slum. Just then, Kim notices Bong Su's presence, and his sad face immediately goes bright. Bongu then tells Kim that Kyan needs an alchemist. Chien uses his power to access the dude, and he can see that he is clearly skilled. Once he is done pairing them together, Bongu leaves, claiming that he needs to go and train. Inside the alchemy office, The attendant is complaining about the low returns when Shrayon and the manager enter the room. Upon entering, Shrayon immediately cuts to the chase, asking Kim if he can make refined mana holes using Mandriora since he is an A-rank alchemist. Chian adds that he needs about 2L of the refined water. Kim believes that Chian is saying trash because he knows that there are no Mandrioras in the slums. And in addition to this, he wonders just how Chian knows his rank. Kim is about to turn the offer down because of a lack of ingredients when Cheon pulls tiny Mandriora roots that contain dense demonic energy, shocking Kim. Kim is totally blown away because the roots look absolutely fresh, like they have just been harvested. Chian then mentions that he plans to pay for Kim's services with specialties from the coastal region. He gives Kim the bag, telling him to appraise everything inside the bag. Kim looks into the bag to see shrank black pearls, leaving him blown because even the headquarters have never seen one. In addition to this, there are giant clams and red moss. Chian then asks Kim if everything will be enough to cover the manufacturing fee, and he says yes. In fact, the whole ingredient is more than enough to buy the entire building. The attendant tells Kim that he needs to get the appraisal equipment since high-value items also need expensive equipment to appraise. After the attendant leaves the room, Cheon spots a Mandriora in a tube and he asks Kim about it since he said they didn't have any. Kim mentions that the Mandriora he is looking at is dead for about 10 years, which basically means all of its medicinal effects are gone. Kim only kept it around because of his interest in Mandriora research. Just then, Chian mentions that the Mandriora is still alive, shocking the dude. Chian then feeds it mana, and to Kim's surprise, the Mandriora reacts to it. Chian mentions that the Mandriora is in a komioma state because it has exhausted its demonic energy. Kim doesn't want to believe what is happening because he has fed the Mandragora lots of mana himself. Just then, Kim's evil boss, enters the room, and he wastes no time making fun of Kim and his trash office. Kim is surprised to see the man there and he asks him why he came to the slums and then mentions that he got a report that something good just entered the lab, which is why he came around. Kim is surprised to hear this, leaving him to wonder if his assistant has already contacted An, and then talks about his subordinates, a set of twins who are ability users, and then turns to Chan to introduce himself as Anji Jang, the director of the Alchemy Association. He wants Kyan to come with him to Gold City and he promises to take care of him. And continues by saying he is prepared to give Kyan an exclusive contract which he will never get from Kim. Chian then asks An about the wart on his nose because he wants to know his relation to An Bakshio and laughs out loud when he hears this, and he reveals that Bakshio is his grandfather. Chian can clearly see the trash resemblance between them both because Bakshio was the person in charge of the experiments that made him a Chimera. He was a trash scientist who never cared about the kids, and he even has a wart on his nose just like his grandson. The moment Chian confirms that they are alike, Chian hits An with so much aura that he falls to his knees. Chian talks about how disappointed he is that An is just like his trash grandfather, who is a greedy and power-drunk person. And is genuinely confused, and Chian decides that he has a simple question which will determine whether he lives or dies. With so much fury in his eyes, Kyan asks An if the TDA laboratory still exists and answers that he has no idea what Kyan is talking about, leaving Kyan to ask him again if he truly does not know about the Chimera research lab where Bokdio worked as a senior researcher. Kim is hiding behind something and he is surprised to hear that Bok, who won the Peace Prize, actually worked at an illegal lab. Still on the floor, and berates Kyan, telling him not to soil his father's name because he worked hard to nurture the next generation at the university. Even after retiring, he donated his entire fortune to the families of the Gate victims, which is what earned him the Peace Prize. Chian figures out that Bok decided to make a public repentance after killing so many people behind the scenes. Chian was expecting him to still be alive since he wasn't awakened, but he died so quickly. Chian then asks if it was an after effect of falling from a window. And this shocks An because the incident wasn't known to the public and is curious about this, and Chian mentions that he was the one who pushed Bokyok from the window because he turned kidnapped kids into Chimeras. He threatened to push them into a gate, but Chian took action first and he pushed the dude from the window. Chian then tells An that he is going to give him just one chance. He wants An to go back and look into the TDA research lab. Chian lets An know that he will be there to find him when the time is right. Chian is surprised that he met Buck's offspring in the slums. He remembers how they subjected him to the painful experiment when he was 9 years old and the monster parts started to show on his body in his 20s. From that point onward, he really doesn't remember what happened. He figures out that he was basically following orders and instincts without being able to think for himself. It suddenly dawns on him that the lab's name might have changed because it's been a long time. Shortly afterward, Kim returns from his lab with the refined water that he wants. Chian is impressed that he was very fast about it even though he is an A-rank alchemist. Kim reveals that the ingredients were so good that everything went smoothly. Just then, Kyan asks Kim if he would be willing to sign a personal contract with him, and he promises to give him the remaining ingredients. Kim is shocked when he hears Chian offering him an exclusive contract in addition to the expensive ingredients that he has. Tears of joy start falling out of his eyes when Kim hears this, leaving Cheon confused as he thinks he has offered the dude a bad deal. Kim then mentions that he was originally from the slums and when he was young, his parents took a massive private loan. He promised he would pay it back, but no matter how much he tried, he was always stuck in the same place. What Xian just did for him is considered the greatest kindness, leaving him to wonder just how much he can repay it. Chian cannot believe that the dude is already thinking of paying him back. Chian then tells Kim that all he wants is for them to continue working together. Chian knows that there are things he will still need from Kim in the future. Since his business is done, he figures out that it is time to go back. But he hopes nothing has gone wrong in his absence. Just as he feared, Jia had gone on a rampage and had beaten Yubam up. Even while getting beaten up, Yubam is hell-bent on keeping his promise to keep the kid safe. Yubam finally decides to engage his sister in a fierce battle and he dashes toward her at great speed. He knocks her to the ground, but suddenly a strange barrier covers her. Yubam is wondering what is happening when he finally realizes that Cheon was the one who put a jellyfish covering on her to restrain her. Everyone is relieved with Chan's arrival and Yubam asks him if he got the medicine. Chan assures him that he got it with him. He tells her to give Jo a bottle and take the other one for himself. After drinking the medicine, Jia calms down and she later wakes up in the night with Nari sleeping beside her. Jia stands up thinking it's a dream until he sees Yuba and Cheon sitting together by the fire. When Xian turns around to look at Jia, she almost passes out as she screams, asking Kyan who he is. Jia's scream wakes Jia from her sleep and she wastes no time acting all friendly with her. Yubam then tells Jo to check her monohole and when she does, she realizes that it is completely healed. In addition to this, her face has returned to normal. Jia is blown away by this and she asks Yubam where he found the people at their house. Yubam is surprised that she doesn't recognize Kyan when she is the one who has been crying to see him. Yubam understands that it's been a long time, which is why she doesn't recognize him. However, after a good look, Jia finally realizes that Chian is number 17. She runs over to his brother to confirm if she is really looking at number 17, and he says yes. Instead of acting all friendly, Chian decides to aura by asking if there is any more red moss. Yubam replies that there is no more red moss, but Jia is not surprised because Kyan was always the least empathetic person with empathy. Nonetheless, she takes off her mask to thank Cheon for everything that he has done so far. Suddenly, Nari notices something sparkling in the sea, and Jia explains that it is a sea fairy. Apparently, they are basically seahorses that live deep in the sea. But Jia and Yubam gave them the sea fairy nickname because they look like fairies when playing with them. Apparently, the seahorses only come out at night and return when the sun rises. Jia reveals that if they follow the sea fairies, they can find a yellow glowing quartz. This is when it dawns on Kyan that he has totally forgotten his main objective. Chian then asks when the sun will rise and Jia says it will come out very soon. Since this is the case, Chian decides that he needs to go for a swim. Meanwhile, on the outside, the scientists have recorded the last known location of the mechanical Chimera to be the coastal region. The scientists are having a meeting when An calls Mongdu asking him if he knows anything about the TDA laboratory. Mongdu says he has not heard of the lab and An mentions that it was an illegal lab that was run a long time ago. Mongdu tries telling An that the Hanbit research lab doesn't do the kind of things he is looking for. Mongdong-du mentions that Bokdio always told him to be an upright and honest researcher. After the call, Mongdu starts wondering how An knew about the illegal lab. Momentarily, one of his attendants enters the room telling him that they have been successful in creating a liquid metal mandriora. Mongdu is glad about his new creation because the mandrioras are quite exceptional when it comes to kinship. He is glad that he left a little liquid metal behind. He is pretty sure that the metal mandriora will go after Nari and will be able to find her quickly. He then orders that they triple the bounty on Nari and also engage all A-class hunters. He is desperate to find Nari no matter what because he considers her his life masterpiece. Back in the demon realm, Yubam stands in front of the sea and remembers the conversation he had with Chian about the quartz. Apparently, Kyan had told him that he wanted to use it for his house, shocking Yubam. Yubam realizes that Cheon has been having a good time in the demon realm. Cheon then asks Yubam if he would like to visit the human world, and Yubam says he is not entirely curious, but he would like to see how things have changed. Chian then told him that he could actually help him get rid of the curse on his body. Yubam is curious about this, and Chian tells Yubam about the alchemist, saying Kim is pretty skilled. Chien says he wants to get Kim to research spells, but he urges Yubum not to get his hopes high. Yubum starts crying while asking Chien why he always helps them when they have never done anything for him before. Chien reveals that looking at the siblings impresses him and makes him wonder if there is anything more important than surviving. Chien says that by helping Yubi and his sister, he believes that he is going to find an answer. Now standing in front of the clear sea, his sister suddenly appears in the distance and throws a rope to him, telling him to pull it. Without knowing what it is, Yubum pulls it, but realizes that it is actually very heavy. Yubum uses all of his strength to pull it hard, and he manages to pull the heavy item out of the water. It turns out to be a large quantity of quartz. Yubum is absolutely blown away when he sees this, as he cannot believe that Cheon and his team mined something so large. Nari and Kyan had fun swimming in the water while mining the quartz. When they got to the Sea Fair's palace, it was absolutely beautiful, just like a yellow palace. Nari tells Chien that she would like them to visit the palace another time. Because of how many stones there are, Yubum asks Kyan how he plans to move them to his house. Chien then says he would have to start thinking about that. Suddenly, he spots a parrot-billed bird flying above them. He wonders why a bird that usually moves in a flock is suddenly flying solo. Nari is blown away by the sight of the parrot and she says it looks very pretty, but Jia tells her that she is going to change her mind when she moves closer. Jia says the birds are over 4 m long and they are extremely vicious. Because of how terrible they are, Jia and Yubum don't even mess with them. However, Yubum already knows the wild idea going through Cheon's head. Chien confirms this, saying he was basically looking for a truck and the bird showed up. Back at the house, Kishuk is still working on building up his mana, and he can see that his monohole is actually getting bigger. He is impressed with what he has achieved, and he believes that his dream of becoming an A-rank hunter might actually come through. He's thinking about this when the metal Mandriora appears behind him. He panics when he sees the weird creature, but his worries are not over because standing behind the Mandriora are 3 scary A-rank hunters, too. The hunters recognize Kyok thanks to his bald head, and they waste no time making fun of him. Apparently, they were the ones who bullied Kyok when he went to apply for the promotion exam. Kyok is panicking when he suddenly realizes that 3 Mandrioras in the garden are standing their ground, and they are doing it in the most fashionable way. The hunters are excited about the Mandrioras because of how much they are worth. One of the hunters approaches the Mandriora to try and deceive it. Kishio is already preparing to lay down his life to protect the Mandrioras when the biggest Mandriora kicks the hunter so hard that he is sent flying into the distance. Surprisingly, Yubor and Jia arrive at the house at the same time, leaving them to wonder who is causing trouble at Chien's house. Apparently, the two had gone ahead of Chien to get to his house because the parrot-billed bird was flying so slowly thanks to Chien beating it up while trying to tame it. Kishio starts freaking out wondering what is actually happening all of a sudden. He's trying to wrap his head around the fact that disaster-class monsters just appeared on site. He is also worried that something has happened to Kyan since Yubum and Jo came in the direction that Chien went. He is still thinking about this when Yubum and Jo dash toward him telling him that they are Kyan's friends. Kishak cannot believe the type of people that his master has been rolling with. It is at this moment that it dawns on him that he can actually use Jia and Yubum against the hunters. He wastes no time revealing that the hunters are there to steal Cheon's Mandrioras. The hunters hear this and fear grips them knowing that they are so dead. An hour later, Shryan arrives at the house and the moment the bird offloads the quartz, it sleeps off immediately. Chien understands how tired the bird is and he pats the bird on the head, urging it to get some rest. Jia is shocked when she realizes that Kyan really tamed the bird, but Yubum is not all that surprised since he knows the kind of person Cheon is. Moments later, Kyan notices the A-rank hunters who have been disarmed and tied to a tree. He demands to know what happened and Yubum tells him that they were there to steal Mandrioras. When Kyan hears this, he suspects that there is something more sinister to their plan. On the other hand, Nari is excited to have Jo at the house and she offers to give her a tour of the entire area. After they are gone, Yubium tells Cheon that the lab that is after Nari is the Hunbit Research Institute, which is why they hired the A-class hunters to find her. This immediately tells Chan that Nari has some sort of tracker on her that still works in the demon realm. However, Kyan is confused as to how the hunters made their way to the house when he and Nari were in the coastal region. Yubum then reveals how this was made possible by revealing the metal Mandriora that the hunters came with. Yubum explains that the liquid metals are drawn to each other, which is why they are able to track Nari. Cheon figures out that the Mandriora ended up at the house because it was drawn to his kind in the garden. Apparently, their next plan was to go to the coastal region, revealing that they have no intention of giving up on Nari anytime soon. Realizing the severity of the whole thing, Kyan believes that coming up with a countermeasure is the way forward. Just then, the Mandroras in the garden walk over to Kyan, demanding that he hand over the metal Mandrora, even though it is already a Chimera. Chian hands over the Mandrora, but notices that the Mandriora boss is still staring at him as if it wants something else. This is when it dawns on Chan that there is another Mandriora in his pocket. He brings it out and hands it over, leaving Yubil to ask where Cheon got the scrawny Mandriora from. Kyan reveals that the Mandriora was being cared for by an alchemist, but he was the one who agreed to look after it. In no time, the Mandrioras dig up holes for the latest addition to the family. Yubim is impressed with the social standard among the Mandrioras, and Cheon is glad that there is no territorial dispute among the Mandrioras. Moments later, Kisok, Nari, and Jo return to the house. As usual, Kishio rushes over to hug Chan, but Kyan just pushes him aside to avoid his trouble. Kishio then reveals his intention to cook something delicious for Kyan's visitors. Kisak is running around until he suddenly spots the giant parrot, sending a wave of fear through his body. He demands to know what the bird is doing there, and Kyan assures him that he is going to explain to him later. While Kisok is preparing the meal of the day, Nari makes her way to the garden, and the liquid metal Mandrora connects with her. Moments later, Kizio finishes preparing the meal of the day, and it looks sumptuous enough to catch everybody's attention. Yubam and Jia are totally blown away as they analyze all the ingredients that Kishio used in making the dish. They are impressed by how detailed he prepared the dish and the generosity of the ingredients he used. As the team is about to take their first bite, Kizio prays deep down, hoping that they enjoy the dish. Yubam and Jo take a bite each, and they find themselves in a food-mix state. Chian is not surprised since this is not the first time he has eaten Kizak's dish. While everyone is enjoying the food, Nari is moody. Moments later, she leaves her food and enters the house, claiming that she needs to sleep. Chan quickly figures out that she is being bothered by the Chimera Mandriora. Chan starts thinking of what to do to help Nari, and he believes that giving her some work will settle her mind. Not long after they are done eating, a gate opens out of nowhere, and when Kyan looks back, he realizes that it is Nari. It turns out that Nari is trying to leave, believing that she is putting Chan and the team in danger. Chian rushes after her to grab her, only to see her bawling her eyes out with plans to bid Shen farewell. Before she can step into the gate, Kyan stops her, letting her know that this is her home. Nari is taken aback by Chian's care, and she jumps into his arms with tears in her eyes. Chian then serves Nari a delicious plate of ramen to calm her nerves. Nari consumes the noodles with so much joy in her heart, but Jia lets her know that the next time she tries to run away from home, she is going to get a scolding from her. Once she is done eating, Kizak gives her a drink to help quench the intensity of the spice. After she is done eating, Kizak tells Chan that he is going to clean the plates and finish up the task that he gave him. Yubam also suggests that they return to cutting the quartz. Once everybody else has left, Nari apologizes to Chan for making him worry. However, Kyan lets her know that she did nothing wrong because those who made her that way are to be blamed. Chian then gets serious, telling Nari to tell him about her friends at the Coconut Tribe. Nari is surprised and shocked to hear this, but deep down Chian is planning to clear out the Hanbit research lab, and he doesn't want Nari's friends to get hurt in the process. Once Kyan is able to get her to talk, she starts spewing everything that Kyan wants to hear. After he is done hearing this, Kyan figures out that Kisok would be the one to lead him to where the lab is. On the other hand, the task that Kyan gave Kisak is to beat the hell out of the A-rank hunters that they are holding captive. Kisok does this happily since Kyan has suppressed their mana and there is nothing they can do while he is beating them up. Just then, one of the hunters offers Kisok money, assuring him that he is going to give him enough money for him to live large. However, Kisiok is enjoying what he is doing so well that the money they are offering him has no value to him. In addition, he has a black card with him, which is only issued to the super elite, and he can get whatever he wants with this. The hunters are shocked when they see this, leaving them to question how Kioak got it. Kisak lets them know that how he procured it is not their business, but they should get ready for intense punishment, which is revenge for what they did to him during the advancement exam. The hunters realize what's coming to them and they start begging, telling Kiok that they are sorry for what happened in the past, but he lets them know that he has no intentions of letting them go. Kisio reminds them how they bullied him just because he failed his exams. However, tables have turned and he is finally in a position to deal with them. He shows them a bunch of balls that were given to him by Chian. And because of how compact the balls are, Kisak says he doesn't know how painful the effect will be, but it is definitely going to be painful. However, he lets them know that the ball is effective in wiping their memories. Enjoying the moment, Kioak screams at them to open their mouths so that they can enjoy the balls. The hunters scream out in pain, knowing fully well that they are doomed. The next day, Chan informs Yubum of his plan to clear out the research facility, telling him to take care of Nari while he is away. Yubum assures Cheon that he has nothing to worry about while he is away. Just then, Kisak shows up, telling Cheon that preparations are done. Yubum notices that Kisak is smiling more than usual, and he reveals that Cheon has promised to let him meet an A-rank alchemist with a hope that his problem might be solved. Jia then suggests that Kian wear disguise, and he agrees to this. Without hesitation, Jia takes off her mask, revealing the stunning beauty under it. Jia hands the mask over to Kian. But while they are doing this, Kisok is stuck staring at how beautiful Jia looks. Before he knows it, he realizes that his heart is beating very fast, which is an indication that he has fallen in love at first sight. Before Kisok knows it, he goes down on his knees to ask Jia what her type is. Kian and Yubum are stunned to see Kio confessing his love without hesitation. Jia, on the other hand, cannot figure out what Kizio means by her type, and she takes a moment to think about it. Once she figures it out, she tells Kizio that her type must be flashy and should be able to dance. While she is saying this, she is busy imagining a peacock. She then caps it off, revealing that her type must have plenty of feathers. And this is when Kisyuk finally loses all of his brain cells. Kisok can no longer hold it in, and he screams out, telling Kian that they should leave immediately to meet the alchemist. Chian lets him know that they are going to stop somewhere on the way, but Kisio doesn't mind as long as they get out of the demon realm at that very moment. Moments later, a huge gate opens in the slums, shocking the residents as they wonder why a return gate is that huge. They are still trying to wrap their heads around the size of the gate when the big blue bird emerges from the gate with Chian riding it. The residents scream out, suggesting that they report the issue to the Hunter Association. Kisok is also confused about the whole thing, and he asks Chian why he had to bring out the giant bird because the people are already freaking out about the whole thing. Chian simply replies that there is no need for them to walk when they have a ride. Kisak then asks Kian where it is that they are going, and Cheon shocks him by telling him that he will be the one to tell him this. Since the sky is blue and they are riding a bluebird, Shryon decides that he is going to name the bird Blue. Meanwhile, the mad scientist is holding a meeting with his staff, and they tell him that the hunters they sent after Nari returned with amnesia. To make it worse, the tracking Mandriora they used didn't come back either. The old man is pissed when he hears this because he knows how bad the organization is going to appear to the public eye if they can't account for the liquid metal in their possession. The old man is still freaking out about what the board members will do when one of the staff members brings out the note they found on one of the hunters. He opens the wrapped note and the old man is shocked to see that it reads, "See you soon." This pisses the man off and he demands that an investigation be conducted to find out who did it. Just then, the window behind the director comes crashing down thanks to Blue landing in the building. Chian realizes that Blue has a short tail, which is why it wasn't able to land well, and he decides that he will have the alchemist do something about this. Once he is done with this, he looks around, demanding to know who the director of the research lab is. Some minutes before they arrived at the laboratory, Kisak had told Kian where they needed to go. However, Kisak revealed his worry, telling Chian that the lab has gotten so much media attention because they were the ones who developed Nari, making them a public hero. In addition, Kishak is worried that they are about to commit a felony. But Kian is not too worried about this, telling Kioak that they are going to find out when they get there. Kayak then decides not to pursue the issue further, believing that Kian must have a plan. He then calls Chian's attention to Blue's short tail, and Chian reveals that it has been like this since the first time he saw it. Chan believes that Blue ran away from its own kind because it was attacked thanks to the tail disability. Chian lets Kisio know that he was the one who saved Blue's life, which is why it listens to him. Kisak then asks Chian why Blue was attacked just because of its feathers, and Chian reveals that the parrot poison bird species are obsessed with their beautiful tail feathers. Chian explains that it was because of this reason that Blue was picked on by its own kind. Upon hearing this, Kisok feels bad and emotional for the bird because he can relate to what the bird is feeling. The moment they spot the lab, Shryon orders Blue to dive right ahead into the building. Kizio is terrified when he hears this, but Shryon doesn't care. Kizio screams out in fear as the bird dives into the building, leaving a loud explosion, rocking the building. The staff are trying to recover from the after effects of the explosion when they turn around to see a scary bird standing next to them. The staff scream out in fear, but before they can make a move, Kian webs all of them up. Still recovering from the hard landing, Kisuk asks Kian why he entered through the side of the building when there is a door that is working perfectly. Chian casually answers that he did this because the director of a lab is always on the top floor. Kyan then walks up to the staff members asking them if he had the right lab, but the only question the staff members can ask him is who he is. Kyan then replies that he is Nari's guardian, but none of them knows who Nari is. Just then, Cheon senses demonic energy in the room, and he realizes that there is a strange person in the building. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association building, the chairman, Lee Un-soo, is having a meeting with his grandson, Lee Biko, who is a C-rank hunter. The old man expects his grandson to be working really hard to make it to the top of the rankings since he awakened at a very young age. However, Bio believes that there is no need to rush since he is still in his 20s. Bio also casually tells his grandfather that he is just coming to the office after a long while, which means he deserves an allowance. This immediately tells Yunyu that he has spoiled his grandson, which is why he has no sense of responsibility. The chairman reminds Bio that he is already 80 years old and it would be nice if he had someone who could take up his position. Un-soo believes that the hunters of nowadays have it easy because they are only risking their asses for the money and not for the love of the game. In addition, the whole Chimera research program was started in a bid to protect hunters on a mission. Nonetheless, hiring a Chimera hunter means paying a huge sum of money to the research labs. Because of this, poor regions that can't afford the payment are left endangered. However, Un-soo doesn't blame the hunters, but at the same time, he believes that a world where life and death are decided by money is wrong. In fact, he believes that it is times like these that the Hunter Association needs to become even stronger. Instead of this, almost everyone is gunning for the chairman's position because of the influence and the money that it brings. Un-soo lets his grandson know that he has been ruling as a powerless chairman because he awakened late and even with a low rank. Un-soo is about to give his grandson a solid piece of advice when someone enters the office to tell him about the parrot poison bird that was spotted in the slums. Un-soo is shocked when he hears this because there was no signal about any naturally occurring gate. The chairman then asks him if the hunters have responded to the sighting of the bird, but he says no, revealing that no hunter is willing to step up. The chairman is not surprised when he hears this because the sighting was in the slums and no one really cares about the slums. The chairman then orders that all the Chimera research labs be contacted, revealing his plan to go by himself. Realizing that his grandfather is all geared up, Bio also offers to go with him. Back at the lab, Chien has captured the director, who was the strange one that he sensed when he attacked the lab. Just then, the director transforms into liquid metal, shocking his staff members. The staff members cannot believe that the director was a Chimera all along. Annoyed that Chien came to disrupt his business, the transformed director dashes at Chien with the intention of killing him. Chien easily dodges his attacks with the realization that the director performed the experiments on himself, too. While Chien is engaging Marongdu, he is able to connect to him telepathically. Just then, Chien is able to tap into Marongdu, the director's mind, and he sees him performing experiments on the kids. The moment he sees this, he loses his cool and stops toying with Mongdu. He angrily grabs him, asking him if he kidnapped young ones just to perform experiments on them. Mongdu casually replies that he was doing the young ones a favor by taking them off the street to perform the experiments on them. The director claims that he was doing them a favor, but this only pisses Chien off, smashing him to push Mongdu to the ground. Realizing that he can't move the way he wants, Mongdu thinks of liquefying himself, but Chien is not about to let him do that. Chien tells him that he is about to show him what it means to be in pain. And he starts emitting a high level of mana that even Marongdu himself has not seen before. In no time, Mongdu starts screaming in pain, begging Chan to let him go. But Chien holds on to him until he finishes sucking him into a ball of mana. After he is done dealing with the director, Kyan turns to the staff members, telling them that he needs information, and they are going to be the ones to provide him with what he wants. Scared not to join their boss in a ball of mana, they waste no time divulging all the information that Shiraion needs. With what Xian gathered from the staff, he realizes that everything started when Marongdu stole his master's research. He ran off with the data to start his own research lab. To make it worse, he performed the experiments on himself, and this is because he wanted to look even younger. Thanks to the information he got from the staff, he is also able to destroy the tracker on Nari. While exploring further into the building, Cheon expects Kisok to handle the cleanup since Blue is with him. It turns out that Cheon is searching the building to make sure he destroys whatever illegal experiment Mongdu has left. Moments later, he arrives at a giant door, and when he opens it, he finds a room filled with large experimental tubes with specimens inside them. Even Gu is pissed when he sees the number of specimens that Marongdu has tucked away. Gu then asks Chan what he wants to do with the specimens inside the tubes. Chan fails to answer the question, and this is because he is lost in thoughts of how he also suffered in the same labs. While the scientists are stripping him apart, Xian is checking on the specimens when he notices another presence behind him. He looks around to see a Chimera fox staring at him, and judging from the smell, he realizes that the Chimera was Na's buddy. Qian also figures out that the Chimera revealed itself because it smelled Nari on them. The fox then walks up to Qian, asking him if he has met any mechanical creature. Qian replies, telling the fox that Nari is living well with them in the demon realm. The moment the fox hears this, it bursts out in tears, revealing that it has been waiting for any good news concerning Nari. Judging from what Nari told him in the demon realm, Qian figures out that the fox is her best friend. Qian then asks the fox if there are others like it, and realizing that Qian is not a threat, the fox tells the others to show themselves. Just then, other chimeras, like a tree, an ant, and even a cactus, emerge from where they have been hiding. Qian then asks if they are the only ones left in the lab, and the fox says yes, revealing that all the combat types have been killed or sold off. Since the chimeras all have demonic energy running through them, Qian figures out that they are going to survive in the demon realm. Qian then opens a gate for the chimeras to go through to access the demon realm. After he is done, he sets the Hanbit research lab on fire. Later on, the chairman and his grandson show up on site to find everything on fire. It immediately dawns on him that the lab was the target from the start and not the slums. Just then, Blue appears overhead, leaving the chairman and his grandson in shock. Shun asks Kisio if he was able to finish the cleanup, and he assures him that everything is done. Qian is glad that they didn't kill anybody because that could trigger something dangerous. However, Qian made sure to feed the eyewitnesses pills that would wipe their memories. Just then, Sean looks down and he spots the chairman and his grandson. The chairman is shocked to see that Sean is truly riding a poison parrot. After thinking over the whole thing for a couple of seconds, Shryon finally remembers who the chairman is. Since Qian can trust the chairman, he picks up the mana prison ball and throws it at the chairman. The chairman is shocked when he realizes that Kaiyan used an old mana sealing technique, which can only be done when one's target is weaker than the caster. Moments later, the other hunters show up to assist Unsu on site, but there is nothing much for them to do. The arriving hunters then tell Kaiyan that there is a report about Mongdu being a chimera. This is when it dawns on Unsu what he is holding in his hands. After they are done with the lab, Kaiyan tells Kisok that it is time they head to the slums to meet the man who will solve his problem. Since Kaiyan is trying to avoid the organization, he cooks up a standard plan. Meanwhile, Kim is sleeping in his room when he hears a weird sound in the house. He opens the door only to find Qian and Kioak like robbers. Kim is surprised and confused, forcing him to ask why Qian came to his house. Qian simply smiles and tells him that it is time he followed him to the demon realm. Meanwhile, Yubam is explaining to Jia and Nari how the court's fence will work when the gate opens. The trio assumes that Shon is back, but to their surprise, it is the fox and its chimera friends. The moment Nari spots them, she runs off, leaving Jia to question why she ran off. Without wasting time, Sosa runs toward the fox and its friends to let them know the chain of command. Surprisingly, one of the chimeras, the tree, just ignored Sosa and walked past it. The tree walks to the garden and it appears to have taken a liking to it. However, the owners of the garden, the Mandrioras, emerge from the ground to show the dude that they are present there. At the back, John, Kishyak, and Kim also return from the human world. Kim is totally blown away when he sees the magnificent house that Xian built in the demon realm. And the first thing he thinks of is the fact that it is going to hold immense academic value. Just then, Kaiyan spots Nari hiding behind a tree and he realizes that she hasn't made up with her friends yet. Chan then tells Kisak and Kim to wait where they are while he talks to Nari. Chan then walks up to Jia to hand over the mask while telling her that it was nice to wear. Jia is glad to hear this, assuring Kaiyan that she is going to make one for him. Kia then asks them what is happening in the garden and Yubam explains that the tree is trying to get its way into the garden, but the Mandrioras are not ready for that. Not long after this, the ant decides to join in the battle. Surprisingly, the tree and the ant employ a nice tactic in an attempt to get the Mandrioras to surrender. The tree grabs the ant and launches it like a catapult, but the metal Mandriora meets it halfway to headbutt it. The force from this causes the ant to pass out, ultimately putting the Mandrioras at the top. Yubam is impressed by the Mandrioras' teamwork, but Jia is also impressed by the tactics employed by the tree and ant. Since the Mandrioras have settled their beef, Kaiyan believes that the next set of people to put their past to bed is the fox and Nari. Not long after this, the fox finds Nari where she is hiding. The fox lets Nari know that she is not going anywhere until she accepts its apology. In a flashback scene, Mongdu learned that Nari was refusing to participate in rank battles. To make it worse, she was refusing orders back then, and one of the scientists believed that something was wrong with her personality. The dude reveals that Nari might have been born a combat-type Chimera, but she came with a kind nature. Apparently, this is why Nari just allows the others to beat her up without putting up a fight. When Mongdu heard this, his evil sense immediately concluded on the fact that all Nari needed was a remodeling. He then orders the scientists to give Nari a bunch of weak but docile roommates. He then adds that the moment Nari has gotten comfortable with them, one of them should attack her. In the end, the fox was the one who attacked Nari because Mongdu is trying to prove to her that anyone can betray her. After Nari was attacked, Mongdu used the opportunity to tell her that there are no friends whatsoever. He tells her that they are going to kill her the next time they attack her if she refuses to kill them. However, Nari refuses to listen to Mongdu's preachings and she resorts to escaping instead. She believes that the fox and the others are her friends and she cannot hurt her friends. The scientist tried to stop her, but she escaped into the demon realm. Now, in the present day, Nari changes into true mechanical form before stepping out to meet the fox. The fox is surprised to see Nari crying because she believes that it should be the one crying. Nari jumps into the fox's hands, telling it that she missed it and the others. With tears in their eyes, Nari promises never to leave her friends again. Meanwhile, Chan, Jo, and Yubum are watching the whole thing unfold. Once Kyan sees that they have made up, he suggests that they leave because everything is already settled. Just then, Kim and Kyo remind Kyan that they are still waiting right where he told them to wait and they are about to pass out. Chien is surprised that they are still there and he lets them know that he basically told them to wait because he believed that Nari might not react well to strangers. Yubum and Jia then ask Kyan who Kim is, and he explains to them that he is the A-rank alchemist who will help them remove their spells. With a bright smile on his face, Kim introduces himself and wastes no time asking the siblings if he can pluck a few of their feathers. Yubum and Jia are startled to hear this, and Kim asks them if this is going to be a problem. Yubum lets him know that he has no issues with this, but it looks pretty embarrassing to him. Meanwhile, in the slums, Bongu is telling Park about the big bluebird that came to the slums. Apparently, Park has been inside, which is why she didn't get to know what was happening. Just as usual, Park serves Bong-Soo with a plate of roasted potatoes with Kim Kai to go with it. Bongu thanks Park for the food and wastes no time munching on it as he talks about how nice the food is. Park assures him that he can eat as much as he wants because she still has more. Bongu then asks her why he is the only one eating and she explains that she has already eaten earlier. Park then notices that there is something strange about Bongu and she mentions this. Bongu replies that he has been down with body aches, but he believes that he has been overworking himself. Bongu mentions that he has taken medication, but he is still feeling a bit chilly, and it has been 10 days since the whole thing started. The moment Park hears this, she mentions the fact that Bongu might be going through the awakening symptom already. Apparently, Bangu is 17 years old, and the symptoms usually start in the late teens, which means the timing is just right. However, Bangu dismisses this, saying there is no chance of him awakening because he is just a poor dude from a trash background. Park disagrees with him, telling him that the awakening doesn't care about his background. Bangu still believes that he doesn't need to get his hopes up because even if he awakens, he is going to awaken with a useless class. Park ignores him and slams a bunch of cash on his chest, telling him to use the cash to take a bus to the city to test at the Hunter Association to confirm if he has awakened or not. Park encourages Bong-Soo, telling him that he might also grow into a great hunter. Bong-Soo is thankful for the assistance, and he thanks her as if she were an old lady. But Park quickly cuts this off. Back in the demon realm, Yubum and the other Chimeras are working their asses off, but they can't get tired thanks to their body constitution. However, Yubum is surprised to see Kyok working just like them, even though he is already tired. He had already told him to leave, but Kizak remained there because he was always training. Not long after this, Chien calls the entire house to talk to them while Kim is working. On Blue's tail feather, Kisak appears to be the most eager of them all to speak to Kim, but Chien urges him to take a chill pill and let Kim concentrate. Chien then tells the residents that they are all free to live at the house, but they must all be ready to be a part of the house. Everyone agrees with him, assuring him that they are going to do their best. After the general meeting, John takes Nari on a small walk, claiming that there is a small fence left on the other side that they need to install. Chan then asks her if she has made up with her friends and she assures Kyan that she has. In return, she asks Kyan if he truly went to the Coconut Tribes village, and Chien assures her that he did. Chien notices that Nari is simply worried because he figured out her true identity. Nari is about to confess that she is actually not from the Coconut Tribe, when Kyan cuts her short, telling her that no one will come looking for her again. Chien assures Nari that he has taken care of everything. And in addition, Chien lets Nari know of his decision to name the family the Coconut Tribe. Nari is glad to hear this and she thanks Chien for his help and consideration. The moment they return to the house, Nari wastes no time announcing to everyone that they are now the Coconut Tribe. Yubum is glad that the talk with Nari actually went well. But Kisak, on the other hand, has almost fainted while assisting with the completion of the fence. Nari is blown away by how beautiful the house looks. And just like regular kids do, she celebrates with the fox. Moments later, Blue comes rushing in and it jumps on Xian looking all excited and happy. Kian pats the bird on the head with the realization that Blue is just a young one in a big body. Suddenly, he notices that Blue's tail has been fixed. Chien is surprised to see this and Kim lets him know that the treatment was much faster than expected. Kim then reveals that he was able to get this done quickly thanks to the red moss that Kian gave him some time ago. Kim explains that the healing properties of the red moss are so good that it is even used in some of the highest grade potions. Chien is impressed to hear this, saying that being an A-rank alchemist speaks volumes. Kisio is also blown away to see this and he immediately jumps in to tell Kim his problem, which is his baldness. Kim then reveals that he has been developing a hair loss remedy for the past 10 years because it is a field that every alchemist wants to conquer. Kisok is shocked to hear this and Kim assures him that he is going to give him the remedy once he is done developing it. Kissy immediately goes on his knees telling Kim that he is ready to do whatever he wants. After he is done with Kisyok, Kim tells Yubum and Jia that he is done examining their feathers. With what he has seen, he has figured out that the magic circle cannot be broken easily because it is an ancient magic circle that he has never seen before. Kim mentions that he might have been able to proffer a solution if only he had a large amount of Mandriora fruit. The moment he mentions this, Chien asks him if he is talking about the red fruit, and Kim is surprised that he knows the Mandriora fruit. Kian mentions that he knows of the fruit because he has eaten a lot of them before. Chien then points to the garden telling Kim that the Mandrioras there will soon bear fruit. Kim is shocked when he sees a bunch of Mandrioras in the garden because he has been so totally occupied that he didn't know that they were there. Basically, Mandrioras are monsters that grow by refining and absorbing energy into fruit which they themselves consume. Which is why the Mandriora's fruit is considered to be pure energy. However, there is a slight problem with this. If one tries to forcefully take the fruit, it automatically becomes a deadly poison to humans. Basically, getting an intact Mandriora fruit means the Mandriora has to be ready to willingly give it out. Kian also remembers that the Mandrioras usually like crevices when it is time for them to bear fruit and he thinks of placing rocks in the garden. Kim, on the other hand, is surprised that Cheon knows so much about the Mandriora. And Cheon mentions that he actually has a connection with the Mandrioras, which is something that happened a long time ago. In a flashback scene, Kian was deployed to the Alpine region when he was still under the lab's watch. He was required to survive alone in the demon realm for 10 days. The moment Chien entered the snowy region, he thought of making it to the summit, which would be his best bet. On his way to the summit, he hears a strange noise in the bush beside him, and he decides to check it out. He gets there only to see a wounded Mandriora that appears to have been attacked by a stronger monster. Chien tries picking up the Mandriora, but it immediately gets on its feet in an attempt to try and defend itself. However, this doesn't last long as it starts showing signs of weakness again. Kian realizes that the Mandriora can actually pass out at any given time. But instead of abandoning it, he actually feels some sense of pity for it. Chien then remembers that he can help the Mandriora by feeding it mana. And the moment he does this, the Mandriora sleeps off. Kian then decides that he is going to keep the Mandriora with him for a couple of days. Later that evening, the Mandriora wakes up to find itself safely tucked away in Chien's pouch. Not long after this, Chien spots a cave and he decides to sleep there for the night. Once he settles down, the Mandriora starts jumping around with excitement. Kian whips out his bottle to drink water, and then he notices that the Mandriora is staring at him, too. Chien figures out that the Mandriora is thirsty, and he doesn't hesitate to pour water on its head. The Mandriora starts shaking, leaving Chien to believe that it is dancing for joy. When everything settles down, Kian is shocked to see the Mandriora holding a bunch of fruits in his hand. To his surprise, the Mandragora is offering him the fruit. Kian remembers the warning that eating a Mandriora fruit might be deadly. But since he is resistant to most poisons, he doesn't hesitate to eat the fruit. To his surprise, the fruit tasted sweet and fragrant. As if this is not enough, it was also refreshing and it filled his mana hole. This is when it dawns on Kian that the fruit might have mana in it. Shockingly, the Mandriora continues producing fruits just to offer Chien. Kayan wonders why the Mandragora is doing this, and he believes that it is just trying to repay him for saving his life. However, Kayan can see that the Mandragora is already exhausted from doing this. Even though Kayan understands that the Mandragora is trying to be good to him, he has no choice but to stop it before it completely exhausts itself. After rejecting the fruits, Kayan is shocked to see the Mandragora consuming the fruit itself. This is when it dawns on Kayan that the Mandragora actually grows by eating the fruit it creates. At the same time, this tells him that he has been taking the mana that it needs to replenish itself. Kayan then decides that he is going to supply the Mandragora with more mana later. When it is time for the Mandragora to sleep, it jumps on Cheon's lap to sleep, even though it had found a safe spot between the rocks. Shun is impressed by the Mandragora's nature, and he concludes that there won't be a dull moment when he is still in the Alpine region. Moments later, monsters show up at the entrance of the cave, and this is because they all want the Mandragora's fruit, thanks to the fact that it contains condensed energy. Cheon then assures the Mandragora that as long as he is there, he is going to protect it. For the next couple of days, Kayan continues protecting the Mandragora while also maintaining a good relationship with it. On the 10th day, Kayan tells the Mandragora that he needs to return to the lab because if he doesn't, he is going to die. At that moment, the Mandragora becomes really sad and Kayan finally realizes why he felt emotional the first time he saw the Mandragora. This is basically because the Mandragora was also alone in the snowy field and it just appeared like Cheon was staring at his old self. Cheon knows that if he leaves the Mandragora might come under danger, but at the same time he can't stay since there is a spell on his body that requires him to go back within the time limit or die. Kayan can't take the Mandragora to the human world either because it is just going to end up as an experiment subject like him. To provide the Mandragora a bit of safety, Kayan surrounds the cave with the threads from a silk caterpillar. To also keep the Mandragora safe while it is moving, Cheon ties one of the threads around its body, urging it not to lose it. With this, Kayan says goodbye to the Mandragora. And as he enters the gate, he apologizes for not being able to protect it until the very end. Now, in the present day, after Cheon finishes his story, Kisak and Kim are left sobbing like babies. Yubum, on the other hand, wants more and Shun reveals that he actually went back to the same location 2 weeks after. However, the cave was gone by then, and he believes that there was a big landslide that caused this. Shryon searched and searched, but there were no traces of the Mandragora anywhere. Cheon felt bad when he couldn't see the Mandragora, but Jia let him know that there was nothing he could have done. Yubum and the others then suggest that they pick a day to go back to the snowy mountains with the hope that the Mandragora is still alive somewhere. Unknown to them, the little dude is still alive and it now has a bunch of other Mandragoras under its care. After he's done with the whole story, Kim asks Cheon if he can feed the Mandragoras his mana because he also likes Mandragoras. Cheon agrees to this, saying the Mandragoras are probably hungry since he hasn't been able to feed the mana while building the fence. However, Cheon asks Kim if he is going to be fine since the Mandragoras are different from the ones in the human world. Kim agrees with Cheon saying he is right, but at the same time, he would like to see for himself. Deep down, Kayan is worried because Mandragoras have an incredible appetite when it comes to mana. In addition to this, the Mandragoras are already used to the high amount of mana that he has been feeding them. Before Kim knows it, the Mandragoras have drained him, forcing him to fall to the ground exhausted. Kisio is the first to rush over, begging Kim not to die. But Kim assures him that he has no intention of dying. In the end, Kim gets defeated by the Mandragoras, and to make it worse, the Mandragoras start throwing up, which means the quality of mana that Kim fed them was actually not to their taste. Later on, the board members in charge of running the research laboratory meet to discuss the attack that happened on the research facility. Jessica, the CEO of Gold Auction, complains about her investment in the research lab and how it has gone down the drain. Violet, the vice CEO of Red Brick Gang, is also worried about the whole thing. Just like the other two, Jenang of the Merchant Association, Go of the Free Hunter Association, and the Assemblyman, Park Woo-jang, are all worried. However, Park assures the rest of the group that he has everything under control. Woo-jung lets them know that an unexpected variable has appeared out of nowhere. Woo-jung then shows them the board, assuring them that he has a new source of funding. Woo-jung reveals that he has acquired information that there is an area filled with Mandragora at the summit of the snowy mountain. The moment he says this, the board members all smile, believing that they have found a solution to their problem. However, they are worried about who will be willing to climb to the snowy mountain because even A-rank hunters avoid the location. Woo-jung then reveals that there is no need for anyone to climb to the mountains. Woo-jung then tells his comrades to hire as many hunters as they can to go to the mid-slope. One of the members is confused because Woo-jung just said the Mandragora habitat is on the mountain. Wu Jung smiles heavily, saying that a transference ability user has appeared to help them. Wu Jung adds that the user came at just the right time. It turns out that the transference user is none other than Bongu, who just awakened. Later on, the A-rank hunters start their journey into the Mandragora habitat, and the journey has been smooth so far thanks to Bongu's ability, which is in use. Bongu is basically the key to the whole journey, which is why he is the most protected person on the team. One of the team members asks his colleague how Bongu was able to cross the gate when he was just an F-rank awakened. His friend tells him that the team leader is an amplification ability user. And the moment he says this, the other dude is left stunned because using amplification on Frank awakened will basically kill them. The dude doesn't want to believe that Bongu agreed to this, but it turns out that they are using a puppeteering ability on Bong Su. Since Bongu is just a kid from the slums, the higher-ups believe that he is disposable. Moments later, the team leader tells the team to halt and he orders his puppeteer to get Bongu to work. Bongu is forced to use a whole lot of energy just to get them to the top of the mountain. The Mandragoras are shocked when a bunch of hunters appear right in their habitat. Thanks to the high amount of energy needed to carry out the task, Bongu passes out the moment they set foot on the top of the mountain. The team leader then orders his team members to start the mission right away. They throw a large net on the Mandragoras to trap them, but fortunately, their leader, Kain's buddy, is still active. It then orders the free Mandragoras to free their comrades from the trap. The Mandragoras waste no time swinging into action as they try to tear the net apart. To the rest of the team, they think the Mandragoras are eating the net, but the team leader lets them know that they are actually consuming the mana to render the net useless. Just then, one of the team members, who is not a mana user, decides to take action. He goes after the Mandragora king, aiming to beat it up. Just as he is about to crush the pack leader, he is sent flying with a powerful punch from Shiraion, who arrives on the scene just in time. The team members are shocked to see a dude attacking them out of nowhere, leaving them to wonder if the information leaked to another guild. Shiraion angrily unleashes his aura that sends the hunters to their knees. And standing behind him with a smile is the Mandragora pack leader who just saw his friend after a long while.